Happy 2019. Yeah, Happy New Year. What's happening, everybody? This is Stephen Anthony Bailey, the host of Hollywood Happy Hour Podcast. It's been 2 months since I've dropped an episode, but here we are. I do apologize for the hiatus, but I'm back. You haven't heard from me since our interview with Taylor Bachnight, one half of Drunk Poets Society podcast, the book club podcast. And today, I'm going to bookend that episode with the other half of Drunk Poets Society, Felice Fisher. Yes, claps. That joke is something I'm very proud of. You know what joke I'm not proud of is everyone's doing this joke that they need to stop doing is the, Happy New Year, I haven't seen you since last year. You saw me 2 days ago. Stop it. The fact that we even celebrate a changing of the year is a little ridiculous. When people have a New Year's party, they're not celebrating the fact that we've gone around the sun. They're just celebrating the fact that, like, yay, new calendar month, and we get to, figure out how to write 2019 instead of 2018. Big deal. Stop it. Stop the joke. When we go into 2020, I want more class out of us, okay? I'm setting the bar higher. Better jokes. Been 2 months since I've talked to you. It's been weird. But I needed some time to think. I needed space. We all go through that. Everyone's got to go through that. Got to reevaluate, figure out what you're doing, why you're doing it. That's the most important thing. Everyone can do things, but if you don't have a reason of why you're doing it, then you can't really do it well, I don't think. So I had to refigure that out. But I had a good New Year. It was fine. It was fun. We had a murder mystery party here. It was great. I didn't kill anybody, nor did I figure out who killed anybody, but it was still fun. And what have I been up to the last 2 months? Not much. Doing a little writing. I'm in a play. I'm doing Our Town with the Kentwood Players in Los Angeles. I played George Gibbs. It opens January 12th. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, come out and see a show. It's a good play. Our Town is written by Thornton Wilder. It's an American classic play. Pretty much everyone does this play, every actor, because it's produced all the time. When I was in high school, I played the stage manager, which is the top lead. And that was the play that kind of made me decide I wanted to do this professionally. And I told myself, though, I remember watching my friend Nathan Middleman play George, and I thought to myself, I'd love to try that role one day. And here we are. A 31-year-old playing a 17-year-old. It's a lot of fun. I'm holding on to that youth. But yeah, so I'm doing that. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, I just took some time to enjoy the holidays and see family and kind of rest and relax. I've also had 10 head colds this season, which is ridiculous. Normally I get sick one time a year. It's in October, right when the season changes. You can hear I'm a little stuffy. I have had a head cold for 3 weeks. In my head, I'm like, you're not dying, but you might be dying, So I'm taking a lot of NyQuil and crap like that. Anyway, what else? Not much. Playing some guitar, enjoying that. Just enjoying time. But yeah, I'm back at it. I'm here. I'm grinding, as we say. And I have some fun things that I plan to do this year. This year will be the year. My New Year's resolution, I'm not really big on resolutions because, like everyone else, I always forget what it was and then stop doing it. But mine this year is definitely going to be to create things that not only am I proud of, but that are what I need to do. Because when I thought to myself in this 2-month hiatus, I'm not going to lie to you, it was like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And what if I don't? And that's a crazy thing to think about. And in thinking that way, I thought to myself, well, I can't be done because there's still things that I have to do. So those projects that I have to do, if I don't do them, I won't die a happy man. Well, why am I not doing those projects? Why am I doing other projects that don't scratch that itch or fulfill me or check things off the box that I feel like I need to do? And that's my resolution, is to get those projects done this year. Because not all of them are big. Some of them are very small. And they're very easy and they're very fun. Little sketches or short films or something. I've got friends from back in Indiana. I sent them a script, and I was like, these are the guys that I started out with. When I was in high school, we were making these short films all the time, making short films. Without meeting those guys and making those short films, I wouldn't be out here. There's no way. There's no way I would have thought that I was prepared enough to leave Indiana and come out to Los Angeles. So I sent them a script, and I was like, let's get the band together one more time. Like, that would be artistically amazing to do, is to do that. So that's on the plan. That's on the plan this year. And nothing wrong with going back to Indiana and soaking up my roots a little bit again. I think that's another thing that I kind of lost a bit is, I've been out here in Los Angeles for 8 years, and now I'm starting to feel like, oh wait, I'm a different person than when I came out here. And of course you're going to be, but I'm so different, in my opinion. And I feel like I've lost a bit of the edge that I had when I came out here, because every artist has to tell a story. And I don't just mean like write a script and tell that story. No, you're telling a story with your body of work, and I've kind of lost what that story is. So like, to me, what I need to do is go back to basics and start over. And I think that's a really liberating thing to like just say, yes, I have this body of work that I've done, but what if I just look at it as if I'm starting from scratch and starting over? And that's what I'm doing across the board with headshots and demo reels and representation and everything. And, yes, I'm continuing the podcast, but with everything else, it's basically like a restart. I'm not going to delete anything, but at the same time, I'm going to, on a day-to-day basis, when I'm figuring out what am I doing today, what goals am I trying to get accomplished today, it's from the point of view of somebody who's just starting and has that hunger again. And that's a really cool place to be in. So if you ever get stuck, get unstuck by going back to basics. Anyway, that's my advice for you today. Also, if you have a head cold, I just feel for you so much. I'm a little fuzzy. That's why I'm rambling, as usual. I ramble even when I don't have a head cold. Let's be real. All right, that's my intro. You guys enjoy this episode. This is Felice Fisher, one of my favorite people. Yeah, we talk about everything under the sun in this episode, so I hope you find it interesting. Let me know what you think, and as usual, you can follow Drunk Poets Society podcast. Find them. I think you can pretty much find them everywhere now, but definitely find them on the iTunes app. Go follow them on Twitter, Instagram, etc. And follow me, Shada Bailey's, all over the place on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. And if you're not subscribed to the Hollywood Happy Hour podcast, hey, be a bud and subscribe, okay? Thanks. Anything else? Oh yeah, SAG Screener's coming out. I thought Mary Poppins was great. I really enjoyed it. Lin-Manuel Miranda can do no wrong. And I thought the numbers were great. I thought the cinematography was beautiful. Thought Vice was a good movie. Thought that was fun. What else? I still haven't seen Will You Please Forgive Me, or I don't know the name of it. Will you please forgive me? You have to forgive me? You gotta forgive me. I don't know, the Melissa McCarthy one. I think I'm gonna watch that today. I really want to see BlacKkKlansman. But yeah, it's always fun. This is always a good time of year because you're ramping up into the new year and starting anew. Yeah, get to watch some movies and vote for some actors and get excited about acting again. It's really great. It's really great. Yeah, that sounded convincing, Stephen. No, it is. The screeners thing, it's just a lot of pressure because I became an actor because I didn't like homework, yet everything about being an actor is homework. You got to read your script. You got to learn your lines. You got to watch these movies and vote on them. You got to, make packets and send them out, and then you got to go do this, and it's all homework. What was I thinking? You feel that silence? That's somebody who's stressing. And I don't need to be. That's the thing. I don't need to be. But what I do need to do is tell you that I appreciate you listening. I hope you have fun. and I'm excited to see what the new year brings to you and what I bring to the new year. Boom. So stupid. All right, here we go. Love you guys. Bye.
We're going to do drinks or food after that, so.
All right, we're recording. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, this is episode 14 of the Hollywood Happy Hour podcast. Take a sip. Num-nums. You're drinking your water?
My water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I have been a guest on your podcast 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
Once on a For Realsies episode and another one that was also For Realsies but was a mini-sode.
Yes.
So, let's just start by telling me and people listening to this, what is the show that you do?
The podcast that I do, or the show that I do every day. All right. The podcast that I do is called Drunk Poet Society, and it is essentially a book club podcast for people who don't have a local book club. So we post the books in advance, but we always pair our books with a cocktail or a beer or a wine, something very fitting. Lately, it's mostly just been cocktails, but our very first episode we paired with a beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea because I've never been a part of a book club. I've never been asked to be a part of a book club. And even you being one of my closer friends, like, I don't know, I don't know if I just have an air of somebody who doesn't read much. I don't talk about reading a lot, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy the show. So where did the show stem from?
Oh, that was all my partner, Taylor. She thought it was a clever idea for a podcast, and the whole kind of pairing of books and drinking and, kind of an introvert's delight of being able to, listen to a podcast and participate, but, kind of maybe from the outside a little bit. But I think a lot of it stems from the fact that maybe you don't have people around you to, go and meet up. Like, I have an actual book club with some friends, and we live relatively locally, but for the most part, we still kind of meet via, like, Google Hangout and, like, sit in our living rooms and have...
The cool thing about this podcast is that I've never been a part of one, and it's a lot of time put in. Not only the time to read, but the time to meet up. What do you guys meet up once a month? Do you guys do a book a month?
We do 2.
2 books a month?
Yeah.
I don't even know where you're finding the time to do that. You have a full-time job.
I absolutely have a full-time job. I really enjoy reading, and to be honest, we front-loaded a little bit on our episodes just for, like, okay, so what are some books that you really liked? What are some books that we both have read?
I just meant about your personal book club with your friends. Like, that's...
that we do once a month. That's definitely once a month. The podcast is 2 books a month.
So you're part of 2 book clubs?
Yes.
So you're reading 3 books a month?
Yeah.
Holy
at least.
Smokes.
Yeah.
So how are you finding time to do that?
Well, my commute is not very long. I don't have a very long drive to work or anything like that, but I don't have any interruptions for the first hour of my workday. So a lot of times while I'm working in my room or things like that, I'll put on an audiobook. So I'm a big proponent.
So you do count it. That was going to be one of my questions. Do you count audiobooks as reading the book?
A lot of times when I have an audiobook, I will have a physical book and an audiobook. The coolest part about Audible and Kindle is if you own both the Kindle and the audiobook, it'll sync it for you. So if you, like, read a little bit in your
really
Kindle
cool.
book.
Yeah, that's very neat.
So that's really, really kind of cool. Right now, I'm listening to Good Omens, which we're doing on an upcoming episode with your brother-in-law, actually, Casey, at the end of December.
What's that book about?
It is about the apocalypse, but in an English humor kind of
that's perfect
manner.
for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's written by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett.
Okay.
And I've been pushing Neil Gaiman on you probably for way too long, so maybe that'll stick at some point in time.
I have a lot of books that I am, in the midst of reading. Like, you are good at sticking to a book until you're done with it.
Most of the time.
But you give yourself this schedule to read it on, whereas I'm always reading 10 books at once. Some physical copies, some are on my phone, and some are audiobooks. I'm all the time studying something, but I'm all over the place. I would be awful at book club because of the fact that I always have 10 things going on. There's no difference to me in my reading sort of regiment as to, like, my career stuff. I'm all over the place all the time. I just kind of go where my, brain wants to go, and I just kind of, like, let it happen.
I used to be worse at that. Like I used to be unable to read more than one book at a time. And I think that when I first started college, I was an English lit major. And because of that, we were reading heavy shit all of the time. And because of that, I was also working at Barnes & Noble. And I would pick up, like, the trashiest Nora Roberts books and, like, blow through them just because it's so mindless that it was easy to do that while you're reading, like, Yeats and Browning and heavier, English authors and stuff in college.
Being somebody that was... and can we say what you do? What do you do?
I teach math and science in 6th grade.
Yeah, you're a teacher.
I'm a teacher. I don't even teach literature.
Molding,
but I have a literature podcast.
You're molding the future generations.
You could say that.
Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and my interview is now all over the place, but, so now we know you're a teacher.
Yes.
You've got this podcast that people should listen to and subscribe to. When did you start falling in love with reading?
I blame that wholeheartedly on my mom. My mom was one of those people that would read, book after book before we went to sleep when we were kids. So, you see kids now who are like, oh, wow, they're such a genius. They're 3 years old and they're reading this book. Like, no, their mom has read it to them enough times that they just have it memorized now. It just looks like they're really smart. So I think she wasn't really shy about big guns. Like, even when we were, like, 5 and 6, she would start with books like Little Women by Louise May Alcott and all of the rest of her books, actually, and just read us chapter books. And, like, we were cool with that. Like, we didn't need...
Just Ernest Hemingway for bedtime stories
Absolutely.
and shit?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where I got my love for Austen. She's just busting out Pride and Prejudice when I'm 7. But that definitely is a lot of it. But she always read, too. So, if that was something that she did in her...
Does she have your appetite of reading?
Used to. I think she's kind of getting back to that. But she definitely does read a lot. That's true. But that's definitely interesting. Like, kids do what is modeled in front of them. So it's like, even I have English teacher friends who, like, have their kids do silent reading during homeroom every single day. But, like, they're walking around the room and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's like, but you're not modeling the behavior that you want to see from your students.
Right.
And my mom definitely did that. So it's like and especially if you admire someone, like, you want to do something like they're doing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, for me, when I was a kid, I remember my grandmother reading books to me and, like, having me follow along with her finger past the words. And it was, like, a lot of memorization kind of stuff. That's how I remember learning how to read. And then, like, I remember books always sort of being available. My favorite thing was as a kid is when you're in class and your teacher passes out that really thin paper.
Scholastic book orders.
The Scholastic book orders!
Scholastic
oh, my
book
God.
orders.
If somebody handed that to me now, I'd be excited.
I've got a box in my car.
I want one so bad just to see what's going on.
I'm putting in my book order on November 15th. The note has been on my board for
let's see what I want
for the last several weeks. Actually, Taylor, who is your sister-in-law and also my podcast co-host.
We need to probably explain this entire web of what the hell's going on here.
She mentioned in our podcast at one point in time, she's like, I love this time of year because it reminds me of Scholastic book fairs at school.
Oh, man.
And being able to, like, go and buy
I forgot
books
that it was
at
a fair.
schools.
That's
Yeah,
right.
They would come in.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I remember begging for money so I could go get a book. And I didn't know what I was going to get, but and I remember. Did you guys have out here like the public library would send a book bus? Did you have that?
I don't think so, but I know that the public library when I was a kid and now does, like, quarter books and stuff. They have big old sales.
Oh, no, we had a book bus. It would come...
Yeah.
Okay, so the first time I ever got a public library card and the first time I was on TV was on the same day.
Fun fact.
Yeah. And so the book bus had come to my school, James Monroe Elementary in South Bend, Indiana. And they pull up, and I was the first one in line because I was so excited. And you get on this bus, and it's like, like one of those, like, Disney shuttles that would take you from your hotel. But instead of seats, it wasn't seats, it was bookshelves. And it had, like, this really interesting bright white lighting in there. And it was, warm. I remember being very warm in there. And they had all these books. And I remember there was, like, a Star Wars section of these tiny little novellas for kids, and I just like grabbed all of them, and they were like, you can only rent like 2. And I was like,
I love that you call it renting like it's a video.
yeah, well, isn't that what it is? Borrowing?
Borrowing.
Nah, it's renting.
Renting is better.
Renting's better. Yeah, so I remember that, and I got like interviewed as a little kid. I wish I could find the tape to that, but yeah, that's how I got into that whole idea. And I spent a lot of time as a kid in the public library and in the school library all the time.
Yeah.
I was never like the kid that was like studying for tests in the library. I was always like finding books that had nothing to do with the school curriculum.
Yeah. Why would you check out books on coyotes unless you really had to?
Actually, I would like to do that now. I would read the shit out of that. You know what books I like, and that I'm not, as a grown man, I am not ashamed to say it, are those, I don't even know the names of them, but they're not picture books, but they're like those really, they were like science books. And I believe they're done with the Smithsonian.
Well, there's like pictures and text all over them.
Yeah.
I had a
You know what I'm
medieval
talking
one,
about?
except it wasn't necessary. It was a textbook, but it came with a CD-ROM.
Get out
and
of my
you could go
face.
on and you could like explore the castle.
Oh,
and if
I
you
love
pressed
it.
the guy on top of the latrine, like you heard someone screaming below him. Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
How, we've gotten rid of the CD-ROM, and getting rid of the CD-ROM, we've also gotten rid of really cool content like that. I think that's...
Do you think there are like digital download codes though?
There should be. I don't know that they're doing that. I don't know that our kids still actually purchasing hardcover books. I mean, eventually is your school book fair going to be just a bunch of like little cards with digital codes on them that kids are picking
My
up?
October book order was $170.
I don't know what that means.
That means that kids bought $170 worth of books from just my October order.
Is that
so
good?
Kids are still buying books.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
saying it as if like it's only 170. To me, it's like
No, I mean
that's almost like a book every 2 kids. One
Yeah.
book per 2 children. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was such a fun time. Like, I think kids' books were better. I'm sure everyone feels this way, but kids' books were better when we were growing up than they are now.
And
No?
a lot of the books that they're still selling are books from when we were
From
kids.
when
like
we were kids, yeah.
Goosebumps are still huge. Kids really still like
Really?
Animorphs.
Animorphs is still in there?
Animorphs is
Get
still there.
out of here. That's great.
All those series of unfortunate events books, kids still really like. I don't know if the NPH Netflix show has kind of helped spike that a little bit, or just the
Right.
general macabre nature, and kids are really into that too.
Did you like that show?
I liked the second season of that.
Oh, okay. I didn't make it that far, and I am a huge NPH fan, but I did not enjoy that show. Unless the casting people are listening, then I loved that show.
I read most of the books. I have the first 10 in my classroom, and
My brother read all of them.
they're
He's obsessive.
they're pretty true to the books, which I liked. And I liked I pretty much like Neil Patrick Harris being everyone, or this isn't really a spoiler alert, but when he dresses himself as other people other than Count Olaf. Like when he
right.
is Count Olaf, he really irritates me. And not just because he's supposed to be an irritating creature. I don't know what it is, but I'm not really into it. But
Maybe
when
that's
he,
what I don't like, is because I love him so much as a
Yeah.
person, and then I see him being this completely unlikable person.
But when he
I don't like it.
dresses up, because in the show several times he dresses up as other people, like he has disguises, like I'm not actually Count Olaf, I don't have a unibrow, I don't
Well,
have this.
there's your
He's better
similarity
there.
between Barney Stinson and Count Olaf.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know, what else do kids are really into graphic novels now. So
yeah.
they have new Star Wars books that are
Is
kind
that-
of like little novellas, but they're graphic novels.
I want those. I want them all.
They're really cool.
As a teacher, are you thinking to yourself, I wish they were reading?
No, reading is reading. I don't care.
That's good.
You're building your vocabulary, you're gaining interest in books. Maybe eventually it'll be a gateway into something more elevated, but honestly, like reading is reading.
Reading is reading.
I don't
That's
care.
cool. I read a lot of comic books growing up. I don't read them anymore. I don't really think they're interesting anymore. But I mean, growing up, it was all about Batman comics. I loved Batman, and hold on. Shut the fuck up. Let me grab a notepad.
That's fine.
I'll get questions for you.
They had, this isn't me doing the podcast, they had a Batman thing when I was at the store today, and I don't remember what it was. It was something sweet. And I was like, no, I'm not going to buy that for Steven. He doesn't want a Batman thing.
Well, there was a while that Let me just jump into the graphic
Sure.
novels then. So yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I read a lot of Batman, and there were Simpsons comics I used to read all the time. Did you ever read comic books?
Not until I got older. My high school boyfriend was really into comic books, and subsequently my husband is now into comic books. Apparently I just, gravitate toward these kind of gentlemen. But that's what got me into a couple different series. I read all of the Steve Miller graphic novels. I liked those. And there was a really cool series that I haven't been able to get my hands on again since then called Batman Secrets.
Batman Secrets.
Batman Secrets. It was really cool. It was a Sam... now I'm not going to remember his name. He did Sandman with Gaiman. Sam
okay.
Edelman or something. Nope, that's a shoe designer. I'd have to look it up. But essentially it's like a reflection at the end of the comic, this 6-episode series. You find that Batman and Joker have been... Joker is restrained.
Sam Keith.
Yeah, Sam Keith. It's excellent. It's really cool. But they've been together, and Batman's just kind of been trying to get into it. Dude, what's going on? What's happening here?
So it says, following his parole, the Joker commits a heinous crime and frames Batman for it, and Batman must clear his name by proving the Joker's guilt. First of all, hold on. Let's just talk about the ridiculousness of that plot. There's an escaped, multiple crazy man.
Yes.
Dressed as a clown. And the city has been relying on this Caped Crusader to save them time and time again for years. And they don't think to themselves, hey, maybe the Joker set him up. They just immediately go after Batman.
Well, Batman is kind of vilified often.
Yeah.
So why would we trust a masked helper?
I don't know.
But
yeah, that's
the 5th episode of this issue. Now I'm giving things funny names.
You got to rent those.
The 5th issue of this, I couldn't get in LA anywhere, and I had to. This wasn't necessarily the infancy of the internet, but maybe online shopping. I hadn't done a whole lot of online shopping at this point in time.
Are you addicted to that now? I'm very
shopping.
addicted. I love it. I'm gonna ruin Target.
There's some places that I still like going
into
to buy stuff because I forget things.
I said I would ruin Target, but I love Target.
I like going to Target. I went today.
You know what I really like lately? I love going in hardware stores. I don't know if that's just because I miss sort of some things from Indiana, but
sure.
I don't like going into clothing stores.
I do most of my clothes shopping online, but home decor. You're right. I like going somewhere to buy my candles and holiday decor.
I love buying holiday decor.
Yeah.
Shoes I gotta buy in the store.
That's true. The last couple times I bought shoes online, I had to return them.
Yeah.
Which is an irritating another trip too.
Everyone always talks about how jeans are difficult. To me, they're not difficult. But shoes need to fit right.
I buy all of my jeans on eBay. And it's always the same brand, and it's always the same size, so it makes my life really easy.
You're like a cartoon character. You wear the same thing every day. Okay. So
they make different styles.
There's 2 lanes that we got to fill in real quick before I get all confused.
Sure.
So let's explain the web of why you're my guest today. Okay, so your partner in the Drunk Poet Society is Taylor.
Yes.
Taylor is my wife's sister.
Yes.
Thus, she is my sister-in-law.
Yes.
And you said you were having Casey on, who's my brother-in-law, which is Taylor and Shannon's brother.
Yes.
So.
Correct.
You have known Shannon since forever.
Since we were 15.
15?
14, 15, something
14,
like that.
15.
Yeah.
Tiny babies.
Yes.
Long time ago in the galaxy here.
So I think I've known Taylor since she was 8.
A real baby. Yeah, an actual infant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I've known you for 6.5 years plus,
yes.
A little bit over. Because I met you really right after me and Shannon, maybe even a month into me and Shannon dating, hanging out. Yeah. And now we're married.
Whoa,
weird. You are also married.
I am.
To Gregory Fisher.
Yes.
The musician, who I love dearly. He's going to be probably my guest after you.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get everybody in now, and then I can, I'm trying to create a world in this podcast and, share my world with people. Okay, so we explained that web. That's good. So we were talking a little bit about, growing up and reading. So, to me, comic books, and like I said, the book bus, and I was reading these little Star Wars novels, and I've been collecting a lot of those. I can't find the Star Wars ones. I did like a 6-hour internet search, and I can't find those particular ones, and I don't know why. Because there's so many Star Wars fiction books that you could sit there and click the next page, and never find them.
You need like some subtitle, and even then, there's still a lot that they reused.
A lot. Yeah, big time. But they were written really well. And then, but I did find and buy, Home Alone had the movie books written, and there were details in those
like
books that weren't in the movies.
Novelizations of the movie.
Yeah, and so I rebought them because I had them as a kid. There's a lot of things I wish I would have kept from childhood that I did not keep. And I've rebought them, some of them. I don't know why I do that, but is that ever anything that you do? Do you ever buy something from childhood just to have it again?
I definitely regret giving up a lot of things. Books are definitely one of those things. But I think the problem, too, is that a lot of my childhood books and stuff were equally divided, if we kept any of them, between me and my sister. So since, we're relatively close in age and kind of had, like, Mom read us all of those books together. So, like, she got the Super NES, but I think I have, like, the original. And, kind of the division of our childhood assets. Like a divorce, except we still like each other.
Right.
But I bought a few of those. I've definitely bought some CDs from my childhood, but, downloads on iTunes and stuff, not actual CDs. Including, like, Savage Garden, which I think was my very first CD that someone ever gave me as a gift.
The one with the black and white one? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I definitely digitally bought that also and downloaded it probably, like, 10 years ago. Like, no, I need this.
So that was your first CD?
That was my first CD.
My first CD...
That and Jewel. I got them the same day. Pieces of You.
See?
Pieces of Me? Pieces of Me.
Pieces of her.
Yeah.
So mine were Will Smith, Big Willie Style.
Big Willie Style. Also had that album.
Great one. Great one. Casey and JoJo, Love Always.
All my life.
Yeah. Awesome. Still good. I still listen to that. I don't care.
But that was on the Save the Last Dance soundtrack.
Was it really?
Which I probably also had.
Awesome. That was a good movie. What was the third one? I got a third one because I got them for Christmas with a CD player. It did not have anti-skip.
Discman.
Yes. It did not have the anti-skip feature, but it did have bass boost, which is weird that bass boost came before the anti-skip.
You got to turn that down if you want to save your battery supply.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was all about the battery supply. That's right.
The battery supply.
And this thing was so big, and I remember like trying to carry it around. So not only is it skipping, the batteries last for 15 minutes. You walk around the block with it on you, and it's over. And now, no matter where I go, I have every song ever on me. I actually think there's a lot of music that I would like to listen to, but I can't think of the way that I used to be able to have those CDs and you have a visual
You can't
cue.
compartmentalize it the same way as in those nice big CD books.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I still have a CD player in the car, and I don't use it enough. I'm keep going into Spotify thinking that that's going to quench my thirst, and it's not doing it.
My very first car didn't have a CD or a tape deck. And it was to the point where Shannon and I would illegally drive because we told our parents that all we needed was like a signed note that I could drive her places. I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
You just made that shit up and they bought
I
it?
think we did. I don't think that there was anything behind that. Maybe someone had told one of us. But Leslie definitely wrote a note, and it was in my glove box every time that I drove Shannon around.
Brilliant.
And we connected a Discman to computer speakers. And I remember the first CD that we were listening to was the Jekyll and Hyde soundtrack.
That's some baller shit. You guys are hardcore.
Cool. Oh, man, so cool. All there was the radio. What are you going to do? There's no Broadway on the radio.
Well, everyone our age remembers listening to whatever your favorite local radio station is and having that timing down and, like, adding the fade and everything like that.
Or waiting on the phone to, like, try and request Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Oh.
I only requested a song once, and my voice was so high that the DJ thought I was a woman. That was not funny.
What was the song?
It was hurtful. I don't even remember. It was so painful. All I remember is that going, ma'am, you need to relax. You've called 3 times. And I think that's like a Mulaney bit. Like he had the same thing happen to him. Little boys, when you have that high voice, but you're 12, so you want to be treated like a man, and someone not only doesn't just call you a boy, they call you an opposite gender. It's soul crushing. It makes you.
Did you just hang up?
Absolutely. I was
Curse
so
him out and
embarrassed.
hang up?
I didn't even curse. I was just, I think I slowly, like, hung up the phone. Because I don't even think it was like a cordless phone. I think it was like a rotary, and I just slowly set the phone back down.
I don't know what curses I would have known to use when I was 12. Like, I think maybe if I went back to like 14 or 15, I would have been a little bit better in knowing how to
Oh,
curse
sure.
somebody out.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have properly cursed someone out at 12.
I don't know that I can do it now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
Not a
very
real
creative.
human. I'm really good like in the car when someone cuts me off, but that's not a person in front of me.
I'm not. I say things and I go, I'm glad they didn't hear me say that.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't smart. Yeah, no. Not good at that.
No clever cursing.
Yeah, I miss all those things. I think, obviously we're just revolving around this cultural sort of, when you're in your youth and you're just absorbing everything between books and music and movies and, anyone who listens to this podcast has heard me say a million times, like I didn't get into theater until much later, but that's something that I still absorb. And I always feel like I'm playing catch up because I think for some reason I feel like in my first 20 some odd years, I was reading everything or listening to everything or watching everything that everyone else wasn't. And so I'm trying to understand like pop culture to...
On purpose? Like everything commercial is lame?
No,
Okay.
it was just because I was raised in I was raised by a guy who was, 70-something when I was a boy. I wasn't exposed to, I didn't have a young person showing me, what was current. I didn't know anything current, really. I sort of grew up in some odd bubble. I feel like my childhood was almost like some experiment on pulling somebody away from what everyone else is doing.
It's okay. I bet
whatever.
you can still catch TRL on YouTube.
That I did watch.
So you're not going to miss out.
But, like, we didn't have cable. And, like, I think about technology all the time because I'm sitting here recording a podcast on a laptop with my smartphone next to me, and I'm going to upload it to the internet. And I'm, if you rewind only 20 years, I'm talking rotary phones. I remember when we first got the little caller ID box, we got that later than everybody. Everyone had cable, we didn't have cable. There was a period of time I wasn't allowed to play video games. There was, so I didn't get a video game system until much later than everybody else. So, and then like going from like the farm area of my grandfather's house to like my like sort of inner city, but still like it's Indiana, so it's like country-ish, but it was just weird. So like to talk to like you or Shannon, our childhoods couldn't be more different.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is fascinating because you guys were kind of on the cutting edge of everything.
Well, interesting thing, my grandfather is 83 now, and up until maybe about 10 years ago, he was ahead of all of us on all the tech. Like, he was the first person to get a Game Boy. Like, he gave me his gray Game Boy when
That's
he got
hilarious.
a new one.
You're talking the big clunky one with four batteries.
The old gray one from the 80s. Hello, Barney. Hi. But
told you you'd make
it works,
a cameo.
It works the same way. Like, he got a laptop before I did.
Mm-hmm.
He learned Dreamweaver and Adobe and all of those programs before I did. But now, in the last like 10 or 15 years, now I have to teach him how to use his iPhone and online shopping and things like that. So
is he
that's
scared
a weird
of it?
change.
Is he scared of the technology?
No, I think he really wants to embrace it. It's just when it's relevant to him, he wants it.
The things that I tell people is like, people are. They just get scared of the technology because they're like, I'm not going to know how to use it. And I always tell them, we don't know how to use it. We go in there and we make a million mistakes and we figure it out.
I'm scared of some technology, but not because I don't know how to use it, just because I'm worried as someone who likes having kind of some semblance of control over stuff that I won't be able to. Like, I'll put, like, a Roomba in my house, if Roomba, if you feel like you want to sponsor this post, I'm interested.
You want a Roomba?
I would love a Roomba.
So, that's artificial intelligence.
That I'm cool with. However, self-driving cars scare the crap out of me. No thanks. Just advanced AI. Like, I show my students every morning the news on something called CNN 10. That's what we do while we're eating breakfast every day. We watch CNN 10.
Wait, you eat breakfast with the kids?
Yeah, low-income schools get breakfast for every kid if they're hungry.
But they don't eat it in the lunchroom? They eat it in the room?
Yeah, there's a cart that I bring into my classroom, and they have breakfast in the classroom every day.
So you're like a flight attendant in the morning?
I have students who have jobs to do those kinds of things.
Oh, so you're the captain.
Yes.
Do you say I'm the captain now?
They wouldn't understand that. I don't think any of
okay.
them have seen
Right.
that movie. But I'd probably say it anyway because I say things I don't understand every day. But while we're watching the news, there was it's 10 minutes of world news done by this like punny guy named Carl Zeus. If you Google him, kids have cropped him into pictures of Zeus and things like that. So kids really, really like Carl Zeus. But
Is he the current
the
Bill
anchor.
Nye?
Bill Nye is the current Bill Nye.
Is he really
knock him
like,
back.
how often are you showing these Bill Nye episodes? Because
I
they're on
watched
Netflix.
half an episode of, well, I use something called Ed Puzzle, which allows me to upload videos and add questions throughout them so kids can kind of like do a review lesson for homework at home. They watch the video, a question will pop up and they won't be able to advance in the video until they answer the
it.
question.
Oh, man. You should do
Technology.
that for me. I would love to answer these questions. Can I be part of your class?
But I mean, all you need is the class code on edpuzzle.com. But this one was on cells, so we're learning about plant cells right now. So
Love
they
that.
had to learn about cellulose and photosynthesis and different, chloroplast things in plant cells. But anyway, on CNN 10, Carla Zeus was talking about AI, and one of the questions the interviewer was asking him was like, hey, so is AI, like, if AI was a person, is it in its infancy? Is it a toddler now? Are we in adulthood AI? And he's like, we're in toddler AI. It's like there are still so many things that AI can do. And that is a little
I don't even know if we're in toddler
unnerving.
AI.
It's just unnerving. That's all.
Yeah.
I watch movies like Wall-E, and I'm like, no, they're trying to take over the ship. You can't trust the robots. That's a terrible example, but I love
that you're
movie.
leaning into something that I'm going to have to go off on. Okay, so...
We're allowed to disagree.
No, yeah, I don't think we will. I think we can talk about it. I think, I currently, I told you I'm reading like 10 books. There's 3 books that I'm absorbing into my brain.
Okay.
And it's Life 3.0, Our Final Invention, and Superintelligence.
Our final invention, that sounds finite.
Correct.
I don't like finite terms.
So-
Those scare me too.
Well, okay, so here's what it is. And also, like, I downloaded, not downloaded, I went to that website, udemy.com, and I started, like, learning how to code, and then I saw they also had, like, these, and they sell, like, each class is, like, $9. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I saw they had a couple on AI, so I bought both of them, and I started, like, doing those as well. So everything that I'm seeing is, like, this is all in its infancy. There's some crazy stuff it can do. If you've seen that video of like the robot that's able to like jump up on these blocks and like flip around and do backflips and all that crazy stuff.
That was featured on CNN 10.
Yes. So that's really scary, but that's all something that it was programmed to do. Thus the human is
Right
still in
now.
control. Yes, right now. So could it get out of hand? Yes. Will it in our lifetime? I don't know. Because there's general intelligence, superintelligence, and what it is right now, which is it's less than human intelligence.
So you wouldn't consider it like actual AI, artificial intelligence?
It's artificial intelligence right now, and which is like artificial intelligence has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing Space Invaders, you're playing against artificial intelligence.
That's
Your
coded to be
Roomba
there.
that's going around that's coded to like roll over and like suck things up when it sees something is artificial intelligence.
Sure.
But as far as like Terminator type stuff, no, we're not there yet.
That Will Smith movie, iRobot. He was in
iRobot,
that?
yeah. That's a ways away. But like, is it scary? Yeah, it can be scary. But I also think there are the people who are on the cutting edge of it are having a lot. They all get together and have these philosophical debates and put each other in check and make sure no one is inventing, Cyberdyne or whatever you want to say. Like it, but it, it was hilarious. About a year ago, I started seeing commercials with like, I can't remember who the guy was on it, but it was Common. It's still on TV.
Yeah.
The rapper
I love
Common
Common.
is doing an artificial intelligence commercial.
Is that those little robots like Sam had? Did you see Sam's robot?
No,
Oh.
I did not.
There was a Kickstarter for a robot that takes verbal commands,
Like a Furby?
except not a Furby. I don't think they laugh maniacally in the middle of the night. For those of you that were born after 1999.
Yeah. I never had
or
a Furby,
2000.
but I had a Gizmo.
My sister had a Furby. Gizmo, that's way cooler. I had
Yeah.
a Gizmo, but it was just like a stuffed Gizmo.
No, mine talked.
And I didn't understand when my mom was like, make sure you don't get that wet. And I was like, why would I ever get my stuffed animal wet? That's crazy. I had not seen the movie. I was like 7. Thanks, Mom.
Anyway, back,
Yep.
the last
AI.
thing I'll say about the AI thing is like, I don't know, whatever. It's a thing that's happening, and it could be really bad, but it's going to be really good before it gets bad. It's going to be something that's going to help us out a lot.
Well, as long as it gets bad after our lifetime.
For instance, like, because we only have a certain capacity to figure certain things out, and I've probably said a million times on this podcast, we're closer to caveman, in my opinion, closer to caveman stage than what everyone considers to be the future. We're still figuring a lot of things out. And
We're more Flintstones than Jetsons.
Yeah, big time. Big time, I think so. With a lot of things, which reminds me, I hope people voted. Yeah, I don't know. It's a wild thing. So now this is what I found very interesting, because I started researching a lot of this stuff around the time you started really getting in your full-fledged career as teacher lady.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me you were teaching kids how to code.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me.
It's awesome.
It's awesome, but
For the kids that like it.
how accurate a way to show the difference between our generation and their generation. There's going to be huge separation, as is there is a huge separation between our parents and us, because we are tech savvy, they are not.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are already seeing that we're outdated, because I think there's 1% of, I don't want to pull a figure out. I'm pretty sure it's only like 1% of the population are computer engineers, like that can code, basically. I'll look that up.
But we can't rely too
afterthoughts.
heavily on that either, because of the fact that there are AI that are being trained to code. So it's like kids who are computer engineers, that's great. If that's your thing, it's a different form of artistic expression. You're still creating these really, really cool worlds.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the kids that like coding that I know are interested in video games, and like that's the direction they want to take it in. But you really have to treat it like a different creative expression, because those are the jobs that will be important in the next 20 or 30 years. Like, the coding is not going to be the most important job for a kid to have in 20 years, because we will have artificial intelligence that can code for us. But can't...
But the thing to remember, though, is that, artificial intelligence isn't planting a seed and, like, watering it, and it's this natural thing. It's computer engineers that are coding it.
One person that has... You need one person to have that creative idea. So a lot of what is the change that's kind of shifting right now in education, and I really hope it happens a lot faster than slower, is not necessarily having these kids that just like sit nicely in their desks and quietly and listen to you while you're teaching. It's a lot about creativity and coming up with their own ideas, and that's why they added the arts kind of back into STEM and STEAM. And creativity is a human thing that you can't really... impose onto artificial intelligence.
Out of these books that I said I read, like, that's what they said, is like, it's a good idea to focus on a creative field in the future, because we're already leaning, especially in our country, leaning towards being a service industry. Like, the majority of us are service people, including myself.
Yeah. By the time I retire, I bet a robot will be doing my job.
Well,
I don't want to bet that, but maybe.
I mean...
It's not like a robot could have the same nuance as like an actual human with emotions who is there working with tiny humans every day. But
think about, like, for instance, there was like once a week we would go to the computer lab and use these ridiculous, shitty computers when I was in elementary school.
I have brand new
now
HPs in my classroom.
You have brand new HPs for each kid. And they're learning to code on them.
Yeah.
That is not the same thing.
It's really cool.
I'm
very grateful and lucky, by the way, that I have that. Not everybody has that. That's really cool.
It is super cool.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, closer to the future than what we are. And our childhood in elementary school was closer to what my grandfather did, where he was just going into a schoolhouse. He called it a schoolhouse because he was an old man.
Yeah.
That's what they called them, schoolhouses, instead of just, no, it's school. But he would go there, and a teacher would teach him things.
Yeah.
And there was, like, no technology in there. It was just book, pencil and paper, facts, from someone who knew them to teach the kid.
And that's why you got that nice Einstein quote that's like, if you judge a fish by its ability to fly, it's going to grow up thinking it's an idiot. Like, when you have devices, you have the ability to give more personalized learning. So you can say, okay, so here I put your assignments for the week on OneNote. Now I'm going to have individualized learning sessions with table 1 on this day, table 2 on this day, table 3 on this day, during science, for instance. Like the other days, like, you can watch these video and take notes, you can do this, and it's still kind of in its infancy and that ideal, and in 6th grade it's really hard because independent learning is hard when you're 11. You just want to mess around if you get the chance to.
Yes, please.
But it's really cool to be able to make more one-on-one connections. I got 37 students. I can't do that in just, I'm going to stand up and I'm
You
going
have
to...
37 students at once?
Yeah.
That's insane.
5th and 7th period, I have 37 students. Yeah, it's a lot. So they're right now, in this nice political climate, there's a debate with my teachers union and the superintendent and the board trying to they came to our side, and we got a recent contract back that said, like, oh, they're ready to meet our demands on salary, but not on classroom size. So they're still kind of, and most days it's great because it gives students more people to communicate with, and you learn more from the people around you than you'll learn from a book or a video. I learn more from the people around me than I do from books and videos, but it's still a lot all at once.
Yeah. Oh man,
But
that's a lot of kids.
Do you not learn from people? Like sharing ideas? Are you more like, give it to me in a book, show me in a video, I'm going to trust that?
I would say I do learn around people around me, but lately, I was saying this last night, that there's certain people around me, and this was actually, I'm going to throw this question back to you because I'm going to lead this into the question that I was going to have. I find that because I have such a thirst to like continue learning, and I'm still as curious as I was as a kid, and I want to learn from the people I'm around. I don't want to be around people that I can learn nothing from, because the way my brain works goes, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting my time right now.
I don't want to know people who know less than me.
Yeah. And
it doesn't have to be about, like everything, but
you still want to be able to shoot the shit and like joke around about ridiculousness, but it's nice to have people who know things about areas that I don't, even if it's not an area that I'm completely interested in, or it's something that I would want as my, like, for instance, right now, I don't want to be a teacher, but I have a million questions, and I find this fascinating, and I'm going to learn a lot.
Sure.
That's great. But, I don't know if it's just my age right now, but I'm just like, man, like, I want to be, maybe I just need, like, to do, like, be part of one of those groups, like,
Mensa?
Something where you, like, go sit somewhere and just, like, debate and have these, you go to a place with a group of people that you're not really friends, but you just go to, like, talk and share ideas and
like
philosophize.
A book club?
You got me. Here's the problem. I don't want to do a book club because I don't like reading fiction, because, again, I don't know.
Book clubs are not always fiction. It depends.
I would be part of a nonfiction book club. I think that'd be awesome.
Well, here's how most book clubs work. You take turns choosing. Like this month, the book club that I'm in, I'm reading a nonfiction book, and it's about a Borneo expedition. And I've only read the first chapter. Sorry, Paul, I'll keep reading. But it's essentially about two anthropologists who travel to Borneo and kind of write about their travels. Like,
that's cool.
And this is the second time he's chosen a nonfiction book, which is also fine. But you can choose whatever. People in our book club have chosen Ray Bradbury essay collections or short story collections. Or,
that's kind of cool, too.
It's pretty dope. I did a nonfiction that I lent you 2 years ago that I still haven't gotten back.
Manhunt,
which is about the
John
assassination
of
Lincoln. Yeah.
So which is fascinating. I still need to finish.
Sometimes, either skip the books you don't want to read, which some people in our club do, or when it comes around to you or other people.
I'd probably be skipping most fiction. That would be tough for me. Like, there is some that I want to read. Like,
you read Handmaid's Tale. You did it.
Yeah.
It didn't take like a year.
It was like pulling teeth. But also because it was, I don't know, that out of the fiction that I would read, that's not one that would jump out to me, and that's why I kind of appreciate that was an assignment to do, because well, it made me think about a lot of things.
But
Good
I mean,
things.
like, as far as the learning from other people,
And
like,
if people want to hear what we talked about, go to the Drunk Poets Society podcast on
DPS
iTunes.
_podcast on iTunes. I mean, on iTunes, on Instagram, and on Twitter. And it's just Drunk Poets Society on iTunes.
Yeah, and just look it up, because I was on the Handmaid's Tale, and then we also did, for Halloween, we did the Legends of Sleepy Hollow
on our spooky sode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you and I are talking about politics, which we have been known to do, so
We do
you're
that
welcome for not necessarily inundating you with all that right now.
Yeah.
But I definitely learned things from either articles that you've read or thoughts that you have, different opinions, that shape how I think about other things. So I think that communicating in a space of collaboration, whether it's a classroom or an office, like, if there's no kind of working together or collaboration, they consider those, quote, 21st century skills. Like, 21st century skills are not just computers. It's how to work with other people and how to work around people that maybe you don't agree with, how to kind of pose counter arguments and, like, well, I disagree with this because, rather than just yelling at another person and saying you're wrong.
Yeah, I think
those are skills that, like, kids have to learn. There are people.
Most people.
People need to learn those.
Social media, if it's hurt anything, it's hurt how we communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. Because with that layer of social media in between each other,
there's, like, protection, that screen in front of you.
People can it's like a confession booth. They can say whatever they want and walk out of it and feel better. I had somebody troll me the other day on Instagram, and I just stupid stuff. Like, I posted something about climate change and whatever.
How dare you have a political thought or about ecology,
if I post a picture of me and Barney, my puppy Barney, that's going to get 100+ likes. If I post something about climate change, 25, 35, maybe. If I want to have an intellectual conversation about something I find interesting or important,
Instagram is not the place for that.
Like, I don't really have many people to talk to about my love of,
Elon Musk
or, space travel or artificial intelligence outside of this. That's why I was so excited when you brought it up. Or, like, politics, I don't really talk to anybody about anymore, because even when people have similar views as me, it just feels like we're just working each other up and putting ulcers in each other's stomachs. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything.
It's not productive.
It's not productive, and that's no good. So I kind of just have a lot going on in my head that I can't talk to anybody about. But also because I feel like, again, most people don't have the same sort of nerdy interests as I do, and I find that
message boards used to be good at that. I bet, those
I need to go do a chat room. I need to get on AOL. And
I'm sure that's still a thing. I have a friend that's
there's Reddit. That's what everybody is doing on that. And but I don't know. I don't want to talk to a screen with a screen name of someone I don't know.
But as a person who lives in Los Angeles, I bet you could find some kind of community that meets in person that really does enjoy talking about those things.
Yeah, they're called schools. That's why I want to go back and get a degree in what I
I still need
study.
So many credits, so if you're taking night classes, let me know.
Good, great. We'll attend.
We can blow the system.
Wouldn't it be great if schools, if colleges became, like, the cool thing to go do, like, instead of, wanting to go to clubs and or whatever,
Is that what people do now?
I don't know.
I'm not really, like, clued into the.
Well, no, we're not those people to talk to.
I know the cool lounges and a nice happy hour.
Exactly, where we can talk about productive things.
Yes.
Okay, so back to teaching real quick.
Sure.
So do you think the future of teaching is going to be automated?
I hope not, because there is kind of a socio-emotional element to my job that you can't just put in, and management-wise. Like, you have 37 11-year-olds in front of you that would so much rather be, like, throwing crap across the classroom or, like, running out or... so those kind of elements, I suppose you need probably a human for, but who knows if education's kind of going in really interesting directions right now. There are a lot of online educational resources where
big time.
rather than having your kid
So many great
actual homeschooled, you're going to do have a digital teacher on the screen where they check in once a week. I did that summer school where I worked for an independent study company where they essentially gave kids and this I don't agree with, packets of shit to do where they filled out the packets and then they came into me and took tests.
Oh, no.
No, it's ridiculous.
Well,
But
okay, you could
it might
set a globe
go
in
in that
front of a
direction.
kid, and they might spin it around.
Sure.
They might read a couple of things, and then they would be able to point at the globe and say, that's where California is, perhaps.
Sure.
But if you have a geography teacher, like I did, who had traveled to all these places and would tell you stories of what it was like there, and what the food was like and what the people were like.
That's memorable.
It was memorable and completely changed the way that I looked at that class. And I did very well in that class, whereas I also had a history.
Did you take human geography? That was the only class in college that I got a B in.
human
I hated it
geography?
so much.
What the hell is that?
I hated that class so much I got a B. It was essentially anthropology meets geography. And the teacher, it was once a week. He was this 80-year-old man who would just pontificate in front of us all day long. And I don't think I cared. And I was just I'm going to half-ass everything. That was a JC class. That wasn't even at the university.
I had a teacher.
So I'm glad you had a good
history.
geography class.
I did, and that teacher wound up getting in trouble for some things. You know what I mean? With children.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no lie. But I also had another teacher who was ready to retire. He was the interesting thing. He was like what you said, 80 years old, something like that. And he was teaching history, and he would, teach the basics or whatever. But after he would give the lesson, he'd be like, okay, do this assignment. And he would go to his desk, and he had this pile of books, and he would take whatever book and reopen it to where he was at, and they were all history books because that's what he loved.
Yeah.
And he'd be flipping through that, and I would just fill out my assignment as quick as possible, hand it in, and be like, I want to know what you're learning, though.
Yeah.
That becomes more interesting to me because you're showing interest in that, and the way that you gave that lesson of, and when Benjamin Franklin put the key on the kite, and just doesn't give a shit.
And the interesting thing, too, is that my most effective teachers and professors, so going through, school, K through 12 and college, were people who, really liked what they did. And I think that, teacher training, I learned a lot when I was in college. I learned some stuff in college.
I hope
it was fine. I learned some stuff. But in my credential program, I didn't really learn a lot about teaching. I learned a lot about how to structure things.
It's an on-the-job kind of thing, yeah?
It absolutely is. And I learn every single day. But I think I use I don't want to say acting skills, but I learned I use my showmanship and my salesman skills more than anything else every day. It's if you are selling this and you're saying, guys, bacteria and viruses are so cool. We're going to learn about the differences today, and it's going to make your brain explode. It is so interesting. You're going to think about this every single day. And if you're not believing it and you're just walking in and you're like, okay, now bacteria is a unicellular organism. It's so boring.
Yeah.
And it's boring for me to do that kind of stuff. I don't want to just sit at my desk and project a PowerPoint presentation. That's so boring.
So what year is this for you?
This is my...
Officially.
As an employed teacher, this is my second year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm still a little...
Do you foresee, because I have... Here's what let me just say this.
Yes.
Yes, I agree teachers should be paid more. Absolutely. I also think there should be, everyone's like, well, teachers get summers off. That's not what I'm saying. I think teachers should be allowed to take a couple years off because...
sabbatical kind of stuff?
Yes, but be paid for it. Because, and I'll tell you why, because teachers it's not going to a factory and beating the hell out of your body, so you could be teaching up into your 80s, like what we just said. But I would have to imagine, even in year 2, you're like, here we go with this thing again that I did. Maybe I can do it a little bit better. But then year 10, aren't you going to be bored as a person saying, here's, what photosynthesis is?
I think a lot of
How are
it
you
has
gonna
to
keep
do
it
with
fresh for
how you make it
yourself?
relevant. So my students, for instance, I'm actually really proud of this because I've been grading them today, and they're awesome. They're so good. For the kids that I was expecting them to be good, they're really good. But we studied pathogens. Pathogens are essentially bacteria that are dangerous to humans. E. coli, Salmonella, Streptococcus, stuff like that. They each had to choose one and research like these 10 questions about it. Like, what's its scientific name, its common name? How do you get it? How do you treat it? Whatever. They all know that you can treat a bacterial infection with antibiotics. That's the one thing that at least they took away from that virus bacteria lesson, is that you can't treat a virus with antibiotics. But my assignment then was to create an Instagram account for that bacteria. So I gave them a printout of a blank Instagram page that included like the top picture and like little squares on the bottom for like previous entries, and they had to come up with a name. So like if they
An Instagram name.
an
Like
Instagram
a
name,
handle.
an handle for their bacteria, and they had the option of either like personifying a magnified version of their actual bacteria, like Streptococcus, which is strep throat.
Yes.
Looks like a bunch of little connected circles, essentially spheres, and so some kids personified them and then had a blown up version next to it of someone's throat and named it like cough cough something, like, and they come up with hashtags and
Is it illegal for you to share that stuff on the internet?
like pictures of that, as long as
Yeah.
I don't show kids names. Totally, I can totally, it's not illegal, I can totally share that as long as it doesn't show a
like-
kid's name.
Let me rephrase that question.
Yeah,
What about like, how there's Pinterest where you can share your
there's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers.
Ah, gotcha. There it is. Okay.
There are free things, there are paid things, there are definitely resources for teachers to share. Pinterest is one of them. The only downside of Pinterest is that because it's, quote, social media, I can't access it from my school Wi-Fi. So I have to do anything that I'm going to do on Pinterest at home.
That's got to change.
It's super
That's
stupid.
got to go
It's
away.
very stupid.
How often do you hear kids, because you're teaching 6th grade,
Yes.
when am I ever going to use this in real life?
I got that once last year from a kid about geometry, and because I was feeling particularly irritated with this kid, we're not going to say his name, but you know his name. This is the student. Yeah, you know this kid. And the problem is that he's so smart, but because he was so smart, he's also a conspiracy theorist at 11, 12 years old.
When you first started teaching this kid, you said to me, I have a
boy.
Stephen in my class.
I did. He went beyond that, though. He went beyond a Stephen.
Yeah, but I'm refined. He's not refined yet.
I imagine 11-year-old Stephen was probably about this. But because he did that, and I was like, you know what? I have a rapport with this kid. It was April. So I was like, I've known you a very long time. I printed him out 4 pages of jobs that use geometry. And it was in pretty much every field. Like, these are all of the jobs that need geometry. And it was just like, he wanted to know why he needed to know how to find the area of a rectangle.
Gotcha.
Why is that something that I need to memorize? And rather than doing it for the whole class, because the whole class wasn't, like, it is important to talk about why it's relevant in real life.
I think it's very important
is.
because I need that even now.
With ratios now,
31-year-old
all
man.
of my ratio, that's what I'm teaching at the moment in my 6th grade math class. Everything is, the standard that I'm focusing on is like using ratio ideas in real life situations. So it's like, okay, if you're making lemonade, 4 pitchers of lemonade, we could even say that now. If you're making 3 cocktails, what's your ratio of vodka to lemons going to be? How is it going to be different than if you're making 1 cocktail? What is the ratio of lemons
Is it Halloween
to water?
or is it not Halloween? Because at
Just
Halloween, I'm going to
saying.
heavy hand the crap out of
But
it.
the idea that you need to be able to kind of make those computations, or be able to compare, like, this person goes this far in this amount of time, this person goes this far in this amount of time, how can we make it a similar enough rate so we can judge who is faster?
Right.
Like, those are things you need to know how to do.
Geometry. Like, for instance, and it must be hard to do it with 37 kids.
It depends on the day. Some
But-
days it's marvelous.
Yeah, but I would have to imagine, like, let's say I was your student,
Yes.
and you see that, or you find out that, how old are these kids?
11 and
11,
12.
11 and 12.
Yeah.
12-year-old Steven, he's one of your
Lord
students,
help
and
me.
you know that, or you find out that he has some affinity towards science.
Sure.
But he hates math.
Okay.
This was me.
Yeah.
If someone would have said to me or shown me that, hey, you know how you like that those spaceships are able to leave Earth and make their way to the moon and land there on the moon and then shoot off from the moon and make their way back while all of it is orbiting at a very, very quick speed?
Yeah.
No one said that to me.
I try and connect.
So I love that. Yeah.
I
love
try
that
and
you
make
do
them
that.
excited for things that are coming. So there are a lot of kids
that's
that
cool
are
too.
particularly interested in chemistry and they want to know about chemical compounds and like, dihydrogen oxide, what's so special about that? And so it's like, well, this is what's coming for you in 7th grade. That's so cool for you. We're discussing rate and ratios right now, miles per hour, meters per second, that kind of a thing. And I'm like, you're going to be so deep in physics in 8th grade, it's going to blow your mind. Like,
Yeah.
I don't teach you physics this year, but that is all you're going to be focusing on. So trying to connect, my whole job essentially is trying to connect with things they already know, because in order to create a brain pathway, that's lasting, a long-term memory, you need to connect it with something they already know. So like, okay, you already know that if they go 2 miles in 5 minutes, they're going to go 4 miles in 10 minutes. Also, I hope that's a car or something. I don't know. I just pulled that out of my butt. But because you already know that, let's try and see if we can compare these two rates doing this. Your first job is essentially to connect it to something they already know, and then for the kids who are losing interest, really projecting as far as like connecting it to something that interests them.
A great experiment for that would be if we drop 2 rocks at the same time and one rock is bigger than the other, they're going to fall and land at the same rate.
Yes.
If you drop
had
a
to do that the other
feather
day.
and a rock,
Yeah.
the feather will not make it down there. However, that's because of our...
Why is that?
It's because of the oxygen in the air and whatnot and the density of our air. But if you if you look up the clip on YouTube, you can see, I think it was Apollo. So
You can see like the air resistance pushing against the feather.
and
I'm
you
sure.
can the feather and the rock drop at the same rate, and they just hit the ground at the same time. It's a great.
9.86 meters per second
Ooh.
squared. I know that it's 9 point something. I think it's 9.86 meters per
awesome.
second squared is the rate of gravity on Earth. Because
So-
my students had to do that the other day. They've had to figure out the gravity between our moon and one of Jupiter's moons, and like where you're gonna weigh more.
One of the 67 moons.
Yes.
These are facts, people.
Facts.
We're dropping them. Okay, so these kids all have the internet.
Yeah.
We did not.
Too much.
Or I
internet.
didn't.
So much.
Too much internet. Well, the bad parts of the internet.
Yeah.
So with what you're teaching, okay, so curiosity is the main thing, because so much of
Inquiry-based science is big.
all of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's science or literature or
They have to want to know
sports
it.
or anything.
Yeah.
With the curiosity, how many of these? Okay, 2 questions. One, how many of the kids come in with a genuine curiosity about a lot of things? I don't remember what it was like to be that age.
A third.
A third come
At
in
this
curious.
point in time. If I taught 8th
2/3
grade,
are
it might
just
be different.
out of their minds, or they just don't care.
2/3 are, well, I would say a third of them are genuinely really, really interested still in school. A third are crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and they're
To get
doing
through
their
it.
job.
They just want to.
Yep.
Because
They
that's
want
what
their
they're
A's,
supposed
they
to
want
do.
their B's, that's their job, they want to do it, that's what their parents expect, that's what they
Got
want.
it.
And then you've got to get the buy-in hardcore on that last third. Those are the kids that you've got to sell to. Like, this is interesting. You want to know it. You want to do this work. I promise.
It's almost like I wish you could have time in the curriculum and in the budget, because that's what you are. You're a person with a curriculum and a budget. You have you're
I
doing
don't
a
have
production.
a science curriculum. They just changed the science standards 2 years ago. I don't have a book. I have the
At all?
standards. I just do everything else that I can.
Let me come back to that. Science standards. Wrote it down.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, it would almost be great if you could interview each kid at the top of the year and say, what makes you tick? Like, what are you interested in? What do you
Yeah.
love? If they were like Legos, well, guess what? Let's lean into engineering for that
Sure.
kid. If they say they love their dog and their cat, well, let's lean into biology and, marine biology and teach them about, maybe focus on, evolution. Or are you allowed to teach evolution?
I
that before?
have.
You have?
One of our first lessons after I got moved to this new class in this different magnet was on characteristics of life. And one of the 8, and let me, for the science nerds out there, I know I taught 8. Science is always moving and changing, and it could be 9 or 12 or 5 next year. But right now it is 8 characteristics of life. But one of them is that a creature evolves over time. So I had to talk about, I showed a video, actually you would find this very fascinating. In New Mexico, there is a species called a pocket mouse.
Pocket mouse.
It was the most kind of deliberate showing of evolution because of the fact that it was only over 100 years. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
what that's like
So,
on fast forward.
it's so cool.
There's
a 10-minute video on YouTube that you can watch about this. But in a nutshell, the pocket mice were brown. There was a volcanic eruption, and because
and
of
their
that,
color changed.
because of that,
I jumped ahead. That's what I did in school.
If there was maybe like 1 out of 100, 1 out of 99 mice that was 1 out of 100 that was black, that would blend in with the volcanic rock. That mouse is more likely to survive. Therefore, that mouse's genetic material was able to be passed on, and more black mice were created instead of brown ones. Brown ones were picked off by predators because it was now volcanic rock all over the place. So because of that, I think it's almost like 9 out of every 10 mice that are now picked up by scientists have black coverings on the top instead of
White
brown.
on the bottom still?
They're
Or
still
brown?
white on the bottom, but the bottom doesn't matter.
Right.
They were always white on the bottom. But those were the ones that survived, and so it was the most marvelous showing that not only is evolution real and not random, but there's 100 years because of the fact that this terrain changed so quickly. Like, those are the ones that survived and were able to reproduce, and that's as far as I went with my students. Like, look,
Right.
This is a characteristic of life. Look, they were able to evolve. So their job in groups, they created their own organism, and they had to prove how this was something that never existed before. They couldn't choose a unicorn or a Steven or anything like that. They had to choose a creature, which was their favorite part, making up a stupid creature, and prove to me how it was alive.
Well, see, you're
it
involving
evolves
creativity.
over time. It does this. You
Putting them
have
in
to.
control. No, that's great
You have
because
to
I
have
don't remember.
fun.
I don't remember it being fun. I don't remember it ever. You know,
And that's why when I'm like, oh no, I'm working, I'm sorry, on Sunday, it's either grading things or like coming up with things like this.
I love that though. Spend as
Yeah,
much time
it's
as
a lot of
possible.
work.
The things that stood out to me, I remember putting the soybean into the wet paper towel and putting it in a baggie.
That's like kindergarten, but yeah.
Well,
You get to watch it grow. It's so cool.
I think it was second grade. It was
Lima
like late.
beans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember loving hands-on things. That's one thing I wrote down.
Yeah.
Another hot button issue, are you allowed to talk to the kids about climate change?
Absolutely. I did a whole unit in the spring
And
this year on
preservation and
human
everything.
impact. And so they had to choose an issue that they felt passionately about and come up with an action plan. So some kids chose plastic in the ocean. Some kids chose to go local and say, like, garbage on campus, and like, this is what I'm going to do in order to change these kinds of things. I think I'm going to start a little bit earlier this year. That last year it was my May unit. So like during May we worked on human impact. Because first we talk about the water cycle, and then we talk about heat transfer, and it kind of really lends itself to easing into the fact that our
that scare
footprint
them?
is screwing up stuff. I think that they hear a lot of rhetoric, but when they see things, like we watched a video of them like cutting open dead birds and finding so much plastic in their stomachs.
Right.
I think those videos, they were like, Miss Fisher, that's so gross. But it's like, no, it's effective. Like yes, it's gross. It's super, super gross. But you realize that letting your chip bag flow into the, what are those called? That it was in on the
Reservoir?
street. Yeah, like a water reservoir. Like you see what that does. It doesn't go away in the oceans. So my goal as an educator, obviously, is to make kids want to learn and all that stuff, but is to produce humans who will put positive things into the world and think about what they're doing. Yeah. But also in a positive way. Like there's a lot of okay, that wasn't a kind thing. Like let's try and rephrase that in a kind way.
Those are great things to learn.
Creating kind humans that also are conscientious. That I would say that is my goal more than remembering that 4 times 8 is 32.
Now,
My bosses might disagree. No, they wouldn't. My bosses are awesome. They wouldn't disagree with me on that.
okay, so how many of these kids walk in with a question? Hey, I heard. My mom was watching the news last night, or I heard my mom talking about how she wants to vote because the oceans are getting warmer, or I heard that there are people at our borders that are being mistreated, or are they walking and asking you these things?
It does help that we watch the news every day. So because of that 10 minutes that we watch of the news every day, they're more likely to ask those questions. I think there are some kids that would anyway. I mean, where I teach, it's like a huge immigrant population. So I think especially when there are things like that caravan that come on, that affects
brings it to home. Yeah.
A portion of my student body at my school. But not enough questions. Not enough to where it's like, oh, well, I see like 4 water bottles that are all outside of the ramp in my classroom. Like, can we have students pick those up and put them in the recycling bin? And you'll still see kids like throw them into the trash can. Like, okay, well, that it's not on the floor anymore.
Right.
Like, I'll give you that, but it's not doing us any good there.
And it's probably impossible to explain to a 12-year-old that they have a carbon footprint that matters.
Well, and here's the problem, is that I did do this unit with my students last year, and I'm sure there are so many kids that I didn't touch. Even if I got like 5 of them out of like the 45 or 50. No, I had 50 last year, maybe a little more than that. If I got some of those kids last year to like be more conscientious, that'd be really cool. To be fair, like, I don't think that anyone is talking about them before they get taught that. So my students this year will have that eventually. But I don't know that. I think people are afraid. But that's the evolution
of, I think, that these teaching programs in our schools is that, yeah, people are afraid, but it's something that we have to start with them because our generation is a middle generation.
Yeah.
We just found out about this, and it's almost like,
what are we going to do about it now?
Teach them.
Yeah.
And really, show them the new way that we're going to have to do things.
And a lot of that is in modeling, too. Like, just in talking about modeling reading and, like, making people want to do that, you have to show them more than anything. They have to practice it. They have to see you doing it. They'll sniff out hypocrisy in like a second.
Well, that's why I wanted to interview you for the show. We're going to be fun here again in a second. But I wanted to interview you because this is what I want people to realize is that your job isn't to teach these kids facts about multiplication and the order of the planets and what bacteria. Yeah. You're doing a psychological Rubik's Cube on these kids, forming who they're going to be for the rest of their lives and what effect that they're going to have. I joke about it with you all the time, like, oh, you're molding the future, and I usually rib you with it.
So much pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, but it's a beautiful thing, and it's like such a difficult thing. That's why I have nothing but questions for you, is because it's, this episode job. Definitely has an odd heaviness to it that this show hasn't had, but I kind of like that we're going here because this feels very important to me to talk about.
There are inspirational things too. I promise. Like, it really isn't
I don't know
all
this is
like
inspirational. I hope that anybody listening, and for our generation too, there's things that we missed in our childhoods that they're getting. So it's also good to look at what they're being taught now to go, hey, here's what we missed that we can also still learn and take in and change with.
Most of our knowledge from other people. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't go out and... we had, encyclopedias and that kind of stuff. But we didn't...
Did you have them at home or just in school?
My grandpa had a collection of them on a very, very high shelf that I probably still can't reach, that he has offered me since I've been teaching. It's like, oh, they're up there.
I had a set of encyclopedias from the 70s.
And I probably had a CD-ROM into middle school,
what is it
maybe.
Called? Encyclopedia Britannica?
Yeah, like an Encyclopedia Britannica CD-ROM.
That's cool.
But I don't know if I used it besides when I was writing a paper. Like, now, we're so spoiled. Like, when we were kids, it was like... I can't remember the name of that song. What's the lyric? I don't remember.
Yeah,
and you just got to agonize over it. Whereas now it's like, oh, nope, we have the internet. I can just be like, who sang this song? Kids now, like, they really just can do that. Like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you don't have to make your brain kind of stretch a little bit to understand anything.
What are the most common
Google
questions you get asked as a teacher from like dumb people like me?
What do you mean? Oh, like
About like for instance, are they allowed to use Wikipedia on their reports? And seriously though, are they?
Seriously, are they? They can use not on reports. They can use Wikipedia. So I teach a class that's just all on medical professions, my elective class, and they're allowed to look at that for that class as far as like what are the jobs of a physical therapist, but you can't use it as a source in like they're writing me a paper on global impact and human impact. They can't use Wikipedia as a source.
Gotcha.
They can use a Wikipedia source as a source. So like, at the bottom of a Wikipedia page, you have all those sources. They can follow those and use those.
Interesting.
But then that's a whole nother lesson on like, what are appropriate sources and how do we use primary sources and secondary sources?
It's a great lesson to learn.
And I wish that I last year I had a lot of trouble with my partner teacher who taught my same students English and history because I thought that was more their responsibility than mine. No, it fell on me, definitely fell on me to have to like do all those like responsible source lessons.
Wait, but you were teaching science though.
Yeah. But the first time they used the internet for sourcing was May. So I was like, oh, it's May. Like you guys have had how to find sources on the internet, and they look at me with those like nice little doe eyes with like they're scared. Like, what is she
I'm about to get an
about?
F. I
I
just failed sixth grade. Whoops.
Yeah. You got to read a room a lot. That's a big thing about my job. You got to know how to read the room.
Yeah, you're ready for stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So cursive, in or out? Are we doing it or are we not doing it?
I love it, but it's not taught anymore. So the reason I love it is because I write in like a cursive printing hybrid.
Me too.
And so I have to consciously think about not doing that on the board, or like I can write on my computer screen using a stylus. And I have to consciously think about printing because I do just naturally write in like a hybrid of the two. And some kids are very interested and love it. And you'll see that when they're like writing journal responses and they have this like painstakingly perfect cursive. Like, oh, you went to a school that taught you cursive, or you're just really interested in this.
Well, it's no different than like
the
kids. When we were kids,
third grade was cursive.
Kids were developing an interest in origami or developing an interest in calligraphy, which is even more so than cursive, right? So like now it's, oh, well, isn't that cursive, that old style cursive, an interesting, gimmicky, fun thing to learn?
Yeah, and I wish that I had time,
which I'm fine with,
to make my students learn it, because it could be valuable.
Typing is way more valuable.
They know it is. It really, really is, and they're so cute. I had them sign my syllabus at the beginning of the year, and they're like, I want to say about 6 kids in each of my classes were like, but Miss Fisher, what's my signature? Oh. How do I make a signature? And I was like, just write your name. It's okay.
Yeah.
They didn't learn cursive, so they don't know what their signature is.
Well, I wanted to be an actor from the get, so I spent a lot of paper and a lot of time practicing my signature. I've had the same signature, and I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's pretty baller. Since I was in 7th grade. I mean, I was working on that bad boy.
Can I have an autographed? Can I put it in my classroom? A headshot.
Autographed headshot.
With an autograph?
That'd be hilarious. Like it's a deli. You just have a deli of your actor friends' headshots.
Yeah, I mean, it could work out.
Who's that? Yeah, exactly. Who's that?
I practiced that kind of stuff, but not quite like my mom. Like I wrote notes with my first high school boyfriend. We had a notebook where like
you handed a notebook off.
Oh, back and forth all day long.
That's baller.
I decorated the front with like magazine and Teen Beat like pictures and like used packing tape to seal it off, and he did the back, so it's like on the front you'd see pictures of like Nick Lachey, and on the back it would be like probably Jessica Simpson. I don't remember what he had there. So he's walking
through the hallway holding that inside that you did towards his chest so hard.
Yeah, and it made it easier to pass notes because it was just a notebook.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what were you like? What were you like as a kid?
There.
Tell me what you were like as a kid. What kind of kid were you? And I want you to tell me what you were like as a kid first, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back as you, the teacher now, if you had yourself in 6th grade. But I want you to talk about yourself as a kid first.
Well, I don't think I hung out with cool kids in school, but I'm not very different, I think, from how I am now. So, like, I was super lame. I'm, like, lame as far as, like, cool kids think. Like, I listened to musicals and Jewel and Matchbox 20, and I read a lot. And I played some video games with my sister. My sister and I were not friends like we are now. But, you know, my family went to Disneyland. I grew up in LA. Like, there were a really close family. My mom's brother lived very, very close to us. So my cousin Erin and her sister Jamie, we all kind of, like, grew up together because we all went to school really close. I always listened to Broadway, and I didn't start
Where did that
acting
come from?
my mother.
Oh, okay. So the books and the musicals come from her.
Everything from my mom. I would say the only thing that I got from my dad is maybe like a mind for math, because my dad was really good at math. He was a bookkeeper. And maybe some country music. My mom hates it because my dad loved it.
Gotcha.
But that's my association now. I still love like old school Alabama and Faith Hill and Tim, McGraw. I still listen to country music every once in a while. Country concerts are always the best.
Well, here's why that's fun. Like, I don't like the sappy country music.
Like Zach Brown. How many times have even together stuff. And separately have we seen them? So many times.
I saw them once with you, and I don't know that I'm allowed to tell that story because this
but
is
you
on the
saw
record.
them before that with Shan, yeah?
Did we? Shan? Did we see Zach Brown more than once?
Yeah, we saw them once.
And then once with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, this is why I can't tell those stories, because I don't remember them.
But I mean, country concerts are the best. But I would say that to go back to your second question, even as gregarious as I am now, so first of all, I would consider myself introverted. I do like staying at home and reading. Most of my friends growing up were always also introverted people, which is why Shannon and I think get along so well, is because we both are, which makes it easy.
Blend. You're a blend.
Yeah, but it makes it easy for us to just like stay at home and mellow and not have to go out and like be around people in order to refuel ourselves.
But
like,
you're also both including myself, career-oriented people.
Sure, I'm good at talking to humans.
On bettering yourself and furthering yourself in your career.
But that's not where I recharge. I don't recharge being around people. Like, I would say that my mother is an extrovert. My mom loves being around people and talking to people and doing this and doing that and being really, really social, and always has. And I am good at that. I'm good at talking to people and being around people. That's a skill that I have. But I still would prefer to not do that.
You are like me in that, where we tolerate.
And
I'm meaner than you are, though. I'm a little meaner than you.
I mean, maybe it depends on how many glasses of wine I've had. But generally, I'm pretty tactful, and I'm good at suppression. I'm good at kind of like pushing, like not dealing with that kind of stuff. If I have to, I will. But yes. As a student, I was a model student. I don't think that any teacher would ever be like...
Not that you were like in a magazine modeling student.
No. But I turned in my homework. I think my only weakness was spelling, which sounds ridiculous, but I was going through my mom's like records this summer, and I looked at my state testing, and I saw that I was in like the 95th percentile, started in second grade in like everything. And I was like, okay, look at me being so smart. And then I go from third grade to
I don't
sixth
like
grade.
And then
I looked at third grade and sixth grade, and I'm looking at every single category besides spelling, and I'm still at the same spot. Like reading comprehension in the 90s, math in the 90s, these things in the 90s. Spelling, I dropped down to the 30s. And I want to say, and I don't know if I remember my second grade teacher, so I'm so sorry. It might have actually been Mrs. Fisher, which sounds hilarious considering that's who I am now. But someone must have said something to me at some point in time about how I was bad at it. And so because of that, I think of that every single day.
Like, I'm never going to tell a kid memory or
no. If I had a photographic memory, I'd be...
you were bad at it.
Someone must have.
Thus...
Because the very next year, I went from 90th percentile to 30th. And then it stayed there through sixth grade. I was in the 30th percentile for spelling, and I still feel self-conscious, even when I'm writing on the board for my students, like, am I spelling that right?
There's only a couple things knowing you, and I feel like I know you pretty well.
Sure.
I didn't need to do this. I'm learning new things about you, but I don't think I needed this podcast to do so. But there's only a couple things that you get a little
Self-conscious?
About, yeah,
Sure.
not a lot of things,
Yeah.
but that's interesting. I didn't know that one about you.
Maybe I just avoid things that I know that I'm not good at.
We share that very much so.
I'm just strategic. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like with the oven, I unfortunately melted something in Steven's oven a couple weeks ago, and a mutual friend of ours was like, "Finally, Felice messed up on something."
Who
like,
said that to you?
Mary.
Hilarious.
Mary was
Hilarious.
like, "Oh my God, Felice, I love the fact that this is the first time I've ever seen you mess up."
You and I are both pretty guarded
you.
people, though. You and I.
When it comes to a lot of things, sure, yeah.
I would say for me, it comes from childhood stuff. So would you agree on that?
I think for me, it just comes from needing to do, not necessarily be a perfectionist, because perfectionism has never like been a thing, but if I know that I'm not going to be able to control a situation, I might avoid it.
Yeah. Control.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It makes me uncomfortable.
So, how do you feel about this whole situation of sitting in front of a microphone and letting me ask you whatever I want?
I mean, I still feel like
feel like
if I
you're in
needed
control?
to twist something, I probably could. Maybe.
You haven't, though.
I haven't.
At all.
I mean, I haven't felt insecure
impressive.
about any of the questions you've asked me about, so that's good. Maybe you're just not digging deep enough.
Ouch. Wow. Way to turn that into an insult.
See, and that's
So-
another thing I'm just projecting now.
So the spelling thing, do you think autocorrect is screwing up the younger generation?
Very, very good question. Interesting, because my students' computers, when they go onto a Google Doc, do not autocorrect.
Ooh.
And I have to teach them how to highlight the word and look at the spelling suggestions. Because if I don't do that, the papers that I get are IDKs and
Oh.
yeah.
Using IDK.
Uh-huh.
LOL.
Yes, that's another lesson, is having to talk about the appropriateness of internet speak.
No emojis are allowed on this report.
Even, have you ever done something called a Kahoot?
What the hell's a Kahoot?
Okay, Kahoot is kind of like okay, so there are two different kinds of assessments that you can do. A formative assessment happens pretty much every day. Whenever you want it, you're gauging how well people are understanding what you're giving them. Summative assessment is kind of in the name. It's summarizes what they learned over time. So a summative assessment normally happens at the end of a unit. How much
Gotcha.
did they learn over this thing? So I use Kahoots as formative assessments, which are like, I'll put like 15 questions or something with a bunch of different answers onto this internet platform called Kahoot. Kids log on using a code, very much like a Jackbox game, and I get the data afterward. Plus, there are winners, so they like the fact that it's competitive. So it's like, oh, okay. You'll show them a picture and you say, what is the ratio of dogs to cats?
Gotcha.
And they have A, B, C, and D, and they choose it on their device. And then we get a graph on the whole device, but I can download all the data.
I would love to just come into your class and just do these parts. This would be really fun for me.
So
And when you
you want to
talk
come
about-
for the fun parts.
Yeah, only the fun parts.
Only the fun parts,
That I
okay.
could just really just kick the shit out of the kids with my knowledge. That'd be really fun.
So what is the ratio of cats to dogs in this house?
1 to 0.
Cats to dogs.
Oh, 0 to 1.
There you go.
Hey,
All right.
give me my
Normally,
hat back.
though, normally in ratios, you don't ever use zeros. But that's true. I didn't give you one that you could appropriately use for this. But
Well, I
you
don't
have to
know
give
what
them in
you're
the correct order. That's a really big thing with ratios. You can't.
Do you also give them a bottle of wine like we just did?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't.
Probably good that you don't do that.
Fired. So fired.
Can you please name the 8 characteristics of life?
8 characteristics of life. All right. They are made of cells.
1.
Okay. They are made of cells. They reproduce. Okay. They evolve over time. They change over time. They adapt to their surroundings.
What's the difference between those 3?
Okay, change
adapt,
over
and
time.
evolve.
Change over time is they start as a baby and then they get a little bit bigger. Then they're in their adult form. Okay, so if you're thinking of like a metamorphosis wise, they're a pupid and then they're a caterpillar, then they're a butterfly. Adapting to their surroundings has to do with like how we get
Behavioral.
just how our body adapts. How if it's cold we get goosebumps or we
gotcha.
sweat.
Interesting.
The next one would be homeostasis, which keeps our internal temperature. So at school, I have my snake. So if he needs to keep his internal
What's
temperature,
snake's name?
Godric.
Where'd the name come from?
He's crimson and gold like Godric Gryffindor from Harry Potter.
Boom.
But he goes to his cold spot if he needs to cool down, and he goes to his warm spot if he needs to be warmer.
Is there a heating lamp situation?
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
a pad underneath the enclosure. So am I at 7 now?
Yes.
7. They consume materials and digest. And for
And
8, yes, I do. I didn't do these in order, and now I feel like I'm going to forget the 8th one.
That's
and
okay.
I just
This
taught
is-
all these
this
kids.
is a
I got
no
through
press.
7.
That's not bad. This is a no pressure situation.
But essentially, in
If we can
order
get that
to
8th.
be alive, something has to have all 8.
All right.
So viruses do not, whereas bacteria do. And bacteria are alive and viruses are not, which is the unit I just completed with my students. Barney, you're alive.
So, cellular organization
Yes.
made of cells.
Uh-huh.
Reproduction.
Yes.
Metabolism.
Yeah, consuming.
Homeostasis.
Uh-huh.
Heredity.
Oh, so they contain DNA. That was 8. Okay.
Response to stimuli,
Yep.
growth and development,
Yes.
adaptation through evolution.
Yep.
Brilliant.
There you go.
That's awesome. Okay. I only have a
You have all 8.
few more things.
Sure.
Here's what I hated when I was a kid. I hated the teachers that tried to like put fear in me.
Fear of what?
Doesn't matter. Whether it's like, if you don't learn this, you're never gonna blah 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 blah. You're never gonna be able to do A, B, and C. Or,
I definitely sent notes home to parents. That's a little bit of fear.
That's fine because sometimes
Don't be a
we
jerk
all
in my
need
class or I'm gonna send a note home to your mom.
Because we do need to learn that there are consequences for our actions.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, I've tried to teach adults that every action that you
Has an equal or opposite reaction.
what? Yep.
More science teacher stuff or more Hamilton
reals.
stuff? I don't know what you're looking for there.
Well, I'm not
It's
throwing
from
my
both.
shot. Science standards.
Yeah. Oh, so you've got Common Core for math and English.
Can we talk about the Common Core shit? What's going on with that?
Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay, so Common Core
I'm not
standards
a
are
student right now.
essentially Common Core standards. It's a really scary way of saying like this is a standard of things that kids should learn.
Why are they
It's
changing
not
it
a
from the
way
it
of
worked?
teaching.
What happened
It's
to
not a
the-
way of teaching
Oh,
at
okay.
all. It is
Okay.
just a set of standards saying that kids need to know this by 6th grade, this by 7th grade, this by 8th grade. So the fact that it's changing to so the reason that parents are tripping is because problems are changing. So they're more literacy based. You have to read problems in order to understand what the question is asking for. Also, the problems are different than I guess we are our generation is a lot of the parents that have kids right now.
Yeah.
Then different than what we had.
Totally.
So, if the questions are more literacy based, we're like, wait, why aren't they just asking us how to multiply this? I don't
Why not
understand.
4
Why
times
isn't
12?
Yeah. Why isn't that
And
all it
then
is?
you
But
carry
it
the
doesn't
one.
help build critical thinking skills. So all Common
so they're
Core
trying to
is
teach kids how to think. See?
Yes.
Because this was a couple years ago that everyone got into a big
Being pissed
tizzy
off
over
about
it. Yeah.
Common Core, yeah.
Why didn't somebody just say we're trying to teach your kids how to think critically and make them better people over time?
because I don't think that
They knew how to say that?
I don't think that would really work in like making parents like feel okay, because when parents feel stupid, they want to lash out somewhere. Like, I don't know how to do this.
Again, what does that sound like? Is that Flintstone behavior or Jetsons behavior?
It's definitely Flintstone
That
behavior.
is Flintstone behavior,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That was called
So
a thought
as far
experiment.
as science standards go, we move to next generation science standards. And it really is more inquiry based. So when you did a lab in school, you go to the lab, probably in high school, never in middle school or elementary, unless you went to a really cool school. They had a lab set out for you. You put this much into the beaker and you heat it for this long, and this is what happens.
I never touched chemicals
Okay.
in school at all. That's cool.
So not even going as far as chemicals. Like, in 2 weeks, my students will
Let's
be
just do
looking
geology.
at...
Let's just say geology.
Geology.
They're looking at rocks and they have the microscope.
looking at
Or not
rocks.
microscope, the...
Most of the time, your teachers will front load, which means giving you the information beforehand. So they'll say, these are the things you're going to find in the rocks.
Yep.
And you've got this, and you've got this, and you've got this. And you'll do, like, either on the board you're writing down, or you've got your PowerPoint presentation, you have this. What it's about now is more like giving kids the rocks, break them up, see what you're kind of thinking about this, and then maybe we'll get into some kind of explanation. But we want them to kind of build
you mean like
the
let them be
interest.
hands-on and experiment?
Yeah,
Like,
have some kind of creativity there.
how every great genius that's been written about,
Yes.
how they figured things out?
And it's hard
Great.
for people who have been doing my job for a very long time. Luckily, I have
Well,
an easier
they need to
idea
be done.
adapting to those things because I'm still super impressionable. Like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Cool.
Sure. But also, do you find that with your personality type and the way that you learn and the way that you crave knowledge and are curious and interested in things, that helps?
With certain kids, with the kids that do not have any interest, it's harder for me to relate to them.
Gotcha.
It's harder for me to relate to kids that are just like, this is boring. Math is boring. I'm not interested in doing this, no matter how many either manipulatives you put in front of me or how many different ways you can show me how to do this. There are always going to be the kids that have already decided. And a lot of that comes from home. Parents say, oh, math was hard for me, so math might be hard for you. And just like the teacher or someone who told me that spelling was hard, like it stuck in my brain.
There's a TED Talk on the YouTubes about how, and I was guilty of this and it changed my mind on it, that we would say, oh, I'm not a math person.
Sure.
There's a
Everyone is a math person.
Everyone's a math person.
Everyone is a math
That's the whole
person.
purpose of this whole thing. We all are.
That's
why there's math.
You might have heard the video. This might be the same video that you're talking about, but there's a great Stanford mathematician. She's English. Her name is... I
believe it was a
Joan
gentleman.
Something. But essentially, she does this whole program for the first couple weeks of school called Inspirational Math, and her website is called YouCubed. So check it out, ucubed. I think it's a .com. But it's essentially...
ucubed.org.
.org, sorry, it's a .org.
And the TED Talk is called How You Can Be Good at Math and Other Surprising Facts.
Is it the same woman?
Yes.
Yeah, she's incredible. Essentially, it's teaching something called a growth mindset in kids, which is basically like, maybe you don't know it yet. Like, you're not defined by how, quote, smart you are. Mm-hmm. Everyone can be a math person. Everybody can learn. Anybody can get better. Some people it takes more work for, and some people need to learn in different ways. Like maybe if someone just tells you something, mm-hmm. you remember it forever and that's it. Maybe another kid has to read it. Somebody else has to like figure things out.
But also there's something to be said about like, okay, a kid could remember something right off the bat the first time he read it mm-hmm. or heard it and then does nothing with it. But the kid who heard it 4 times then takes it and goes somewhere that it's never been before. Or like we need to break the idea of all this mythology that we live with. Like, a Michael Jordan is the only person there's only one, and he's the only one that's ever going to be great at the game of basketball. Well, it's not true because 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, LeBron James comes along and he's breaking every record.
There are incredible, if you look up growth mindset videos. So growth mindset is a huge thing that we're trying to instill in students now, and adults really honestly need this. And one of those is talking about, it's a video on famous failures, where it's like, this is this person who tried this activity X amount of times, was never accepted for it, and then did it one more time and like finally got to that point. And
what is that quote? I just found blank, blank, blank amount of times to fail. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Keep talking. I'm going to look that up.
But a main way that I grade, because I grade on something called, I do mastery grading. And essentially, a lot of my students are probably not doing particularly well at the moment, but they still have 7 weeks to prove mastery in the 3 or 4 topics that I've given them so far. And if you show that over that time, you have mastered a topic, that
it was
grade
Edison. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps.
There you go. Oh, I like that.
Yep.
But essentially, it's like, okay, so our first big concept is ratios. And it's like, because of that, it's more work for me to give a bunch of different assessments. Like maybe this one's 2 problems written, or maybe this one I'm just looking at your online activity, or this one's a different assessment. But you have so many multiple opportunities over time to get better at something that it's not like you just got a C on your test and now your average is 70% and you're going to have to work the whole rest of the semester to get that up. That's not how mastery grading works. It's just like if you get a 4, which is what I grade out of, on 4 out of 5 learning targets, that's your A. If you get a 3, you do this. And it's hard, it's really a lot of work on my behalf, but it helps students believe that they can constantly improve and get better. It's less discouraging as far as like, I didn't do well on that. Well, now I have a 50%, and I don't know if I'm going to not have an F at the end of the semester.
Not only that, like having that grade like loom over you, like, for instance, I'm going to bust my brother out real quick. He's in his first semester of college, and he came out here for a week and a half for the wedding, and he's got to work really hard, and he's like, I guess I'm not good at this. It's like, no, you took a week and a half, you made this harder on yourself by coming out here.
Hard work doesn't mean you're bad.
No, it just means like, it's hard work to do great things. Not everything can be easy all the time. He breezed through high school is the problem because he's very smart.
There's kind of always a wall that you hit, especially for gifted students, which I have a few of. There's always a wall. For me, it was, as far as math goes, my wall was my sophomore year of college. I took a class on statistics. And it was the first time that I really needed to learn how to study. And, like, before that, I was like, oh, flashcards are fine. Like, I can learn, what happened during World War II using flashcards. Like, that's whatever, I'll memorize it. But statistics wasn't like that. And I remember, I think that was the only class in college I got a C in. Because I was just, like, having to work so damn hard in order to get this class done. And because of that, I'm like, okay, there's going to be a wall that all of these kids hit. You hit a wall at some point in time.
Yeah.
Whether it's in 5th grade, whether it's when you're a senior in high school or in college. Like, there's a point where you're going to have to work
plugging along.
hard.
You have to keep going. You can't, absolutely.
Yeah. And I worked really hard for that C. Like, I put in way more effort than almost any of the A's I've ever gotten.
But see, that's a beautiful win that you were able to...
pass that class.
Yes. Then,
it was also an online class. Don't take statistics online, boys and girls.
If I say to you, all right, we're going to do 2 things. I'm going to have you shoot 3-pointers. Okay. And then we're also going to drink a glass of wine. Right?
Okay.
You're going to get the A in the drinking glass of wine.
Yes, I will.
That's naturally...
I'll probably get a C in wait, it's 3-pointers?
3-pointers.
Not from, like, not...
And you have 20 times to get one in, and if you...
For a second, I thought you meant free throws.
Right, which is very easy.
Yeah.
3-pointers not easy.
No,
right?
I might fail that.
You might fail it.
I don't have any practice. I have so much wine drinking practice.
But if I give you 20, exactly. If I give you 20 shots at it and you make 1 and that gets you the C, you're going to be proud as shit that you made a 3-pointer because that's not your realm.
Can I, like, throw it grandma style?
You can do whatever you want.
Right,
you got 20 times to try it. You know what I mean? So that to me is what it is.
It goes back to that Einstein thing. Like, you got to... I'm really good at drinking wine. I'm not good. Or I should say I have no practice at 3-pointers.
Failing is fine. Messing up is fine. Actually,
you learn more when you fail. Because you have to look back on that and you have to correct it and you have to be able to adjust. More synapses are formed in your brain when you fail.
I shared that on my Twitter feed. I've been doing my Steven Science
This girl
facts.
that you looked at before with her growth mindset videos, that's a huge thing that she shows.
I shared that. Yes. The synapses.
What's her name again?
I went away from it. Hold on, no, I'll go forward. Wait for it. She's
so great.
No, went away from it.
Except
I definitely believe
it.
I
think it's Joan.
Joan, I didn't say her last name, but we set her website so they can find out. Okay, I have a couple more questions because we're coming up on 2 hours very quickly. That was crazy. How do you get your students to, I'm sure the overall goal not only is to teach them what is in your curriculum.
Yes.
I've got to get them to know X, Y, and Z.
By the law, yeah.
But to get them to be people who not only take what you've taught them and go away with curiosity to keep building on it.
I think a lot of that has to do with the foundation. Like, if you give a foundation of interest and curiosity, then they'll be more interested by the time they're done.
Well, what about the foundation they have before? They've had 6 teachers before you.
Yeah.
And they walk in to you who is different than the others.
Hopefully.
Or
hopefully not. Or hopefully there are other people who are not.
How do you deal with that?
The interesting thing this year is I walked in 6 weeks into the class that I'm in now because I switched. So the classroom was already kind of well established, and the teacher that was teaching before had a different philosophy. It was very much just like a direct teacher-directed lessons with everything. So adjusting was interesting.
Right.
I think now a lot of it is probably not necessarily focusing on less technology, but less reliance on technology. Like, oh, okay, you have this question. Let's think about this question. Let's discuss it as a classroom. Just because you have a computer out doesn't mean you should Google it. Like, let's talk about our thoughts on it before we actually look up the answer.
Examine it ourselves and use our brains.
And I love it when kids ask me questions that I don't know the answer to, because it's an opportunity.
Oh, does that happen often?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily often, but when it does happen,
I don't mean that as a slight. I mean that is like, that's
I don't
amazing.
ever make anything up. Like, that's ridiculous. If students ask questions that I don't know the answer to, a lot of times... I'm sure there's an asshole student that's like, oh, Ms. Fisher doesn't know. Not so far. I think there are enough times that in math class I, like, put the wrong answer on the board on purpose to, like, see if kids can catch it, that when I do genuinely don't know the answer, it's always like, well, let's figure this out together. Like, let's talk about it first, and then we can look it up. And I'm trying to foster that curiosity and inquisitiveness prior to reaching for the phone, reaching for the computer. I really am one of the first ones. If Greg and I are sitting up and watching a movie at night, this is actually more Greg than me because I normally don't give a crap. I'm like, what else was that person in? Greg is like,
He's
looking
IMDb
on his
boy.
phone. He's IMDbing it right away.
That's a weird thing to do, Greg. Like, I never do that.
Shut up, Steve.
I'm
You do
talking
it
to
all
Greg
the
through the
time.
podcast. That's hilarious. All the time. I think that's the app. You know how your phone can show
we
you
miss
like
that
what
now.
you spend the most time on?
IMDb.
That's always in the top 3. YouTube's number 1.
Yeah.
Love me some YouTube.
But yeah, no, that's I think that's a lot of it, is not pretending like you know everything and kind of helping kids figure out how to answer questions.
Totally.
Yeah.
So,
Be
okay.
concise.
To be concise, this was a very concise
Yep,
podcast.
super.
We have had some vino. We've talked about your profession.
Yes.
I am
Those go hand
happy
in hand,
that
mostly.
yeah, totally. I'm happy that you allowed me to ask you these questions. I hope people find that interesting. I did.
It's
I
different
don't know.
for your podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
This was Hollywood Happy Hour, and,
Yeah. I work
that's-
in
you know
a
what?
Hollywood, just not the Hollywood.
Well, I don't care anymore about that.
Yeah.
I whatever. Like, this is what I want it to be, and I'm a curious person, and I got tired of asking, do you like Uta Hagen? Do you like Stella Adler? Do you like Stanislavski? Like, I'm tired of asking those questions, and people are probably tired of hearing them.
Actually, I use those in my practice.
I like to mix them, and I'm more Meisner than anything. Like, shut up. The pretentiousness of my art form that I play around with.
Yeah, there's no pretentiousness in my job.
Yeah, well,
That's true.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, back to pretentiousness. I want your top 5 books of all time, in your opinion.
Oh my god.
We're going into the rapid fire question there.
Yeah, you didn't ask me this ahead
we
of
don't-
time.
I
All right,
don't
my
prepare
favorite
you.
book of all time is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I've read it several times,
You know,
and
our friend
unfortunately,
Dan Lynch is in Picture Dorian Gray at Noise Within right now.
Really?
Yeah, we should go see him.
Interesting, yeah. I have been gifted too many editions so far. I've got about 5 of them, and they're all really, really cool, and I love Oscar Wilde. It's great. I don't need them so much anymore. I love, because of my mom, I would say my second is Rose in Bloom, which is a Louise May Alcott book about a girl who actually, as an adult, I read it, and she falls in love with her cousins. That's really weird, but I loved it when I was a kid. After that, I would say, I'm going to go popular, even though I read this many, many years ago, and I would say Outlander by Diana Gabaldon is really, really great. She's got a star show right now. Their 4th season starts tomorrow, so that's a great free plug for you. As far as 4 and 5, let's see.
Tomorrow. This won't be released at that time.
Oh,
so
sorry,
we're
November
recording
4th.
This November 3rd.
Yeah.
It's coming out November 4th.
It comes out November 4th on Stars. All of the other seasons are great. Read the books; they're better.
Right.
I would say Stardust by Neil Gaiman would be my number 4.
And you also do like the movie. You tried to get me to watch it.
I liked them both.
I would rather read the book than watch the movie.
The book is better than the movie, but the movie is great because the cast is great.
The movie is like...
It's cheesy.
It's got the word star in it, and I still don't care.
But Stardust, but Claire Danes is a star. She is a
that's
star.
not how it
Number
works.
5
People don't come from stars.
is going to be Fool by Christopher Moore. I love almost everything by Christopher Moore, but I particularly
What do
really
you
love
like?
Fool.
Tell me about Christopher Moore and why you like him.
Christopher Moore is a satirical author that takes, for the most part, this isn't everything he's written, for the most part he takes things that are well known and kind of spins them.
Gives them a wicked for the
Sure.
theater people.
That's
wicked
Gregory
treatment.
Maguire. He's great also. But Christopher Moore, the reason Fool is great is because it's King Lear, but from the fool's perspective.
Oh.
And there's an element, obviously it's incredibly satirical. There's an element of, there's cursing, there's obscenities, there's things that Shakespeare added in, but he veiled. And, had it his own twist on. Like, there's no twist here. Like, there's whatever language he wants.
Well, that's the interesting part, is in those Elizabethan days, Shakespeare's works were like the rated R,
Yeah. I have a Shakespearean insult a day calendar in my classroom, and my students have no idea what any of them mean. Like, it's
Did
not...
you just say them to them?
I
each
could,
student?
and they would have no idea. Like, thou art a foul, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wrote that in several ways.
Definitely.
But those are my top 5. Yeah.
Have any of those been on the Drunk Poets Society
We
podcast yet?
have used a Christopher Moore book, but we used Lamb.
You did Lamb.
We
right.
did Lamb by Christopher Moore.
Was that the first episode or second? Or third?
4? 3. 3 or 4.
I think it was 3.
3.
Yeah, it was early.
Because I think, yeah.
What do you
And
guys
we
have
will
coming
use
up?
Neil Gaiman soon.
Right. What do you guys, what are the
We
next
have
few?
All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, which is coming out, which is a beautiful book that takes place during World War II and thereafter. And it shows the perspectives kind of from both sides in a really interesting way how they connected it. I thought it was a beautiful read. It was really long, but it was great. We've got coming up A Christmas Carol.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
What is it? Is that
It's
a
by
Quentin
this up and
Tarantino?
comer named Dickens.
Oh, Dickens.
Dickens, yeah.
Chuck Dickens?
I'm not Chuck Dickens, that's him. I'm not a huge Chuck Dickens fan. So I'm thinking like of all of the books that he's written, this is probably going to be a really good one. And the book
That's
that
the one
I
I'm least
mentioned
interested in.
that I'm listening to right now, which is Good Omens, that's coming out at the end of December. And that is where we'll have Casey Bachnight as our guest. But I'm listening to it. Fun fact is Good Omens, I believe, is coming out in January as a miniseries with David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Huh.
He's Sarah Silverman's boyfriend, right? I'm thinking of the right guy, the right Sheen.
I don't know. Not Charlie.
No. No, I think it's Michael Sheen. But I'm excited about that, too, because I like David Tennant and I like Michael Sheen.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, one more thing before I let you go.
Okay.
I stole this from the show. My favorite show as a kid was Inside the Actor Studio with James Lipton.
Sure. Yep.
And he would end every episode doing the Pivo questionnaire. I do that.
Okay.
So we're going to do this.
All right.
What is your favorite word?
Dude.
What's your least favorite word?
Bitch.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Literature.
What turns you off?
Ignorance.
What is your favorite curse word?
Cunt.
You're the first one to say that on this podcast.
I'm
No
so
one's
sorry.
used that word at all. This is a teacher, people.
so
What
sorry.
sound or noise do you love?
My KitchenAid mixer.
Which usually has what in it?
Batter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What sound or noise do you hate? Besides my voice.
Screeching brakes when you're driving. It's frightening.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What profession? This is a good one for you.
Okay.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? And you can't say like podcast host. I'm not
That's
gonna
my
let you have that.
moonlight. I would say my next job would be, social worker.
Nice. Not actor, not singer, not
No,
performer.
I don't think so.
You've
I just
done so
like
much
doing
of it,
those things.
though.
I don't need to
You
make
like
money
them.
doing them.
No.
No, I just like it.
Got
That's
it.
a vocation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're great at it. We didn't talk about that at all.
No, it's okay.
I can have you on again. What profession would you not like to do at all?
I don't know. Receptionist. You have to deal with people too much, like rude people.
You deal with children every day.
Yeah, but they're children.
Oh, so
These
you
are
give them an
adults.
excuse. You're giving them a pass. I see. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
All right, you made it.
Like it's a party up there?
Good for you. Welcome.
Like
Yeah.
you were busy
Yeah, like,
and you might not make it to the party.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'll try to get there if I can.
Yeah, like the fashionably late.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you made it here.
Please!
Yeah, what's up? Yeah. Dude.
Does he pop you a beer immediately? And if so, what beer?
I mean, if it's a beer, then I'm going to go with a 2020, which they don't make anymore at Golden Road. But if it's a glass of wine, I just want like a nice caps off.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
All right.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm so sorry that
See,
I did a
asked you
really
that
bad
like it
curse.
was
I can
a-
change that really
No,
bad
it's-
curse.
No, you can't.
Okay.
It's over.
Shit.
I asked you that like I was interviewing you for a job. Do you have any questions for me? Every time anyone has ever asked me that at a job interview, I go, no. What am I going to ask you? What? I don't
Do
care
you
about
want
you.
me for this job?
Yeah.
That's
Are you
gonna
going to
be
give me
my
the
question.
job?
Are you going to give it?
Am I hired or what? I'm too abrasive. Anyway, thank you for coming on to
Thank you for
talk
having
about this.
me.
That was 2
Thank
hours.
you for
That was
being on
2
mine. I'm
hours.
so sorry, listeners.
I'm not saying that's
maybe.
bad. That's like an average. I think me and Taylor went 3 hours plus.
I mean,
I was asking her all kinds of crazy shit. Yeah.
so I'm not as special as Taylor. That's what you're telling me.
It was a little boring. No, I'm just kidding. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Like, she didn't ask me
I
about...
like talking to
She
Taylor
didn't talk to me about artificial intelligence. Okay?
No, okay.
Yeah, you hear that, Taylor Bachnight? Also, am I allowed to get a third episode later down the road on Drunk Poet Society?
We'll see. We'll see what the reception is on our second one.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. I was a little tipsy, I got to be honest.
You made us moonshine cocktails.
Yeah, you can tell we actually didn't get drunker throughout the episode. We
That's
got
good.
more sober because at first
Yeah.
we were all over the place, and then it got better as time
The eye
went on.
contact that I made with Taylor at the end, like you could tell she kept looking at me being like, is he going to talk about the book again? Are we going to talk about the book?
No,
No, we're
the
not.
book's done. We were over well, it's because that book, it was so sensational that
It
we had
is.
to go, we're talking about The Handmaid's Tale right now, we had to go into now and talk about the effect that it
Sure.
had, but
Oh, yeah.
how important a book, it shows how important it is because we were more talking about its effect than what the story was. Like,
Sure.
it has that effect.
Well, and if you're interested, like I said before, we're at DPS_podcast, and we are at Drunk Poet Society at gmail. Poet Society podcast at gmail.com.
I didn't give you any permission to plug
I'm
on
sorry,
this
I'm
podcast.
plugging right now.
What the hell's going on?
Feel free to add me at Felice Marie on Instagram. If I don't approve you, it's because I think you're an 11-year-old, so I'm so sorry.
Right,
in advance.
that's right. You're
I'm private.
You're private on
Yeah,
there.
I have to
See,
be.
and I had to make sure because my last episode when I was with Taylor, I said your full name, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm even allowed to
No,
out
I mean,
her like
if a
that.
kid
I-
tried to add
I
me on
added you.
Instagram, like,
Yeah.
I would just say no. So if you're not a child,
Well,
I'll probably
I gotta be
add
honest
you.
with you. I have a public profile, and if a child came at me, I'd be like, block.
Yeah.
I'll unblock you in 8 years.
I've only had 2 or 3 students trying to add me on my Instagram account, but it's enough that I'm like,
Boys or girls?
no.
Boys or girls?
Always girls.
Oh, well, see.
Although I have
At least
another
not a
8th grade
pervy
teacher
boy.
friend that sends DMs that I will show you later that are not
Naughty?
just terrible.
Children
Just
are
not
children
things you want.
are going through a tough time.
Hope to see you on DPS. Please
Drunk
read
Poets Society.
our next book after this airs will probably be All the Light We Cannot See, but feel free to look back in our catalog on Lamb and Fahrenheit 451 and Reincarnation Blues and enjoy, please.
Last question.
Yes.
Do you have a random fact that you love telling students?
Random fact. Oh gosh, I told kids about a random fact the other day. Oh, when you are snapping your fingers, the sound that you hear is not when your fingers meet, but when your thumb hits your palm.
Boom. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Love you, dude.
Bye. Love you.
She loves the word dude. Okay, bye.
And that was the podcast. That was it. That was me talking to Felice for 2 hours. And what I think I'm going to do is do another 2-hour outro where I just ramble on top of this beat. Do like some freestyling, which you do not want to hear. Trust me, you don't want to hear me do that. Guys, it's been a while, but I promise I will drop another episode next week. I will never leave you like that again. My dear babies, I will never leave you. Let's just keep doing this thing where we hang out every now and again and I talk for 2 hours to somebody that you don't know, and you listen to it, and then you could tweet me, or you could slide into my DMs. That's gross. Please don't do that. But like, you could write me an email or a message, and let me know what you think. If you have questions, concerns, ideas, guest recommendations, good recipes for guacamole. I don't know, something. But I'll see you next week. I promise. Promise. Also, you know the deal. Follow us. Interact. Let's make this a game where we talk to each other and connect as human beings. In the year 2019, we will connect more. Now go. Go on. Go have a good 2019. I'll see you next week. It'll be fine, I promise. Okay. I love you. Goodbye. You're still here? It's over. Go home.